Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless.
All right. This is a Keep Hammering Collective. Normally I do have to do that every time. I don't know why I do that. That's like the clicker on the...
Yeah, exactly.
Keep Hammering Collective with Casey Anderson. How you doing?
No, I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Oh man, I'm pumped. I've been following you for I don't know how long, but a while, and your content is cool. I mean, I think one of the first clips that I really noticed was when that bear walked up to you, and I don't know where you were in Alaska, I assume.
Yeah.
But it was fishing, and you were just kind of explaining, body language, and you weren't worried about it because whatever. So that's what you do, huh?
That's all I do, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, all my life. Yeah, that's all I know. I mean, I couldn't get a real job.
How did this become your job?
Man, it's a tough question. I've never done anything else.
And on Instagram, just for people, it's Grizzly Guy. So just
at Grizzly Guy.
At Grizzly Guy,
Yeah,
so
YouTube,
check out his stuff.
YouTube's Endless Venture. That's our new launch right now. So
Gotcha.
It's a thing I'm trying to keep up with the kids these days.
So you're putting video out on YouTube, just same type of stuff? Or
yeah, just
like
starting.
films?
We're building some new original content, little shorts, 15, 20 minute little episodes.
Yeah.
And various things. Just tracking animals all over the world, exploring undiscovered caves, finding cool Native American religious sites and stuff like that up in the mountains. It's everything that I've been doing for the last 50 years.
Yeah, so right, I kind of interrupted you. So how did it start? Just obviously that was what you enjoyed doing, but how did it turn into a job?
Growing up in Montana, being with a dad who was a mountain man of sorts, hunter, tracker. That's all I knew how to do. That morphed into me going to college, trying to study wildlife biology. I wanted to do something with animals. College wasn't really a great thing for me. Then I was like, one day, how it actually really happened is I went to Montana State, and Montana State's very close to Yellowstone. Mm-hmm. So I'm down in Yellowstone, and I meet this guy from LA who's carrying this big camera. He doesn't know where to go look for grizzly bears or wolves or how to, find herds of elk. And he sees me and he's like, hey, if you carry this big backpack and can find me some grizzly bears, I'll give you some money.
Really?
And I'm like, yeah. So that just morphed into doing things like that. So I was like behind camera for a long time, just guiding, tracking stuff, finding stuff for guys who didn't know how to find it.
Did you market yourself to do that, or did it just word of mouth
Yeah, it was word of mouth.
So photographers would hear about you and want to go to Yellowstone. It reminds me of that grizzly and the wolf, that shot that everybody had a couple years ago. That was in Yellowstone, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I know a lot of people had shots of that, but probably the local people knew exactly where to go, maybe got contacted, hey, have you seen this? And so that's kind of how it worked, just word of mouth.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that morphed into one thing to the next. That same guy, he was from LA. He had this big series on TV. He needed to make wildlife content. And I remember one day he called me. I was probably 20, something like that. And he's like, are you really thinking about going back to college? And I'm thinking about it. He's like, hey, I got something for you. We're going to do 26 episodes. And your job would be, we're just going to travel the world, and you're just going to try to find the craziest wildlife stuff for me to film. What do you think of that? And I'm like,
no,
I'm out, dude.
Chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I've been doing. And then that morphed into, one day being in front of the camera, and you know how it is. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you never think that you're going to be doing this stuff. And then I got a series on National Geographic and did a bunch of shows for Discovery and BBC, and then it turned into a thing. And then I look back and I'm like, okay, I'm turning into an old man. I can't do anything else. I couldn't get a real job. I don't have any other skills.
Yeah.
So now, that's where I'm at. I'm just, continuing the adventure, trying to share the wisdom and the experiences that I've got over the last 30 years of doing this professionally.
Yeah. It's, it's quite a lifestyle. What I like that, I guess, let me think what I like about it most is it's like hunting. We talked about this a little bit before we started, but whether you're killing something or not, you're hunting.
Yep.
You're out there. And I like that for the most part, yeah, you can hire somebody, a local, to take you to this place if you're not from the area. But for the most part, it's your success relies on how often you're out there.
Yep.
The more you're out
sure.
there, the more you're going to see, the more you're going to capture, the more experiences, the more decisions you get better at making. And so it's reps, it's decades, right?
It is every day. I mean,
no
I'm not a
shortcut.
weekend warrior, you know, every single day I'm outside doing something like that. And I have been, and I've had to, you know, again, I'm a hunter, I'm a trapper, but sometimes I'm not killing them. You know, I have to, you know how it is. This feeds my family, you know, being able to go and close the distance and capture behavior of a rare animal feeds my family. Sometimes, you know, it's just a check in the mail. Sometimes it's literal. Like I was thinking about something I'd love to share with you. It's like I was tracking this mountain lion for 8 years, which was crazy. I would see her every day for 3 months.
Oh man.
So I like got to know this cat so good. And so one winter she killed, I'd say about 25 mule deer kills that I found. And it was a heyday for me because I was getting this behavior on camera that was amazing, right? And it's such a rare thing to get. A mountain lion is so elusive. And so it was a heyday for me because that footage was worth so much. But every time I went to a kill, I'd sit there and I'd watch the coyotes and the magpies pick those back straps. So eventually I started taking those back straps out those kills. and I bring them home and I'm like, hey, honey, I brought home the bacon basically. We fry those things up. And it just cracked me up because, again, I was a scavenger in the moment, but at the
Just
same
like
time.
those other animals.
Just like the other animals. But I was taking something from my knowledge, you know, and being able to track her down.
Yeah.
And I just always think that's hilarious because some people are just like, you know, they got to eat organic, grass-fed, free-range. Well, how about organic, grass-fed, free-range mountain lion killed?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And also, like, there's a saying, I've used it before, that the mountains provide. So that's another way the mountains providing. You just knowing that lion and knowing, hey, going to be able to get some meat off this thing if I follow her around. And
absolutely.
yeah. And that'll help sustain you. But I did see another post you had on Instagram, a cool one. Because I think that, like, to be good at what you do, or to be good at what I do, man, you have to be so in tune with what's going on out there. But you had a kind of an observation about magpies, and just tell me about what that said, or what you learned from magpies out there.
Magpies they're my best intern. I mean, I've learned so much by listening to them, and magpies are just part of the equation. And if you are out there all the time and listening, the animals are telling you stuff. They're telling each other stuff all the time. There was a point in human evolution, or whatever you believe in, that we were really in tune with it because we had to be to survive.
Yeah.
We'd listen, we could hear it. And those who spend a lot of time out there, that language, you know, it's like if you and I went to China right now, we would walk around, we'd be able to communicate at all. But if you're there and immersed in it and listening long enough, you start to learn the language. And there's no different when you're in the wild. And magpies and other animals, but magpies are great in the Northwest because they are always watching and they're always saying things. They're saying very specific things.
I didn't know that.
Oh, all the time. Like if I hear a magpie, I know if it's looking at a cat. I know if it's looking at an owl.
Oh, okay.
And it's just it's a cadence and the thing, and it's what's so cool now is that, you know, with AI and stuff like that, they can prove it. You know, because there's these little discrepancies in the sounds that they're making.
Oh, it breaks it
down. But they're literally saying, there's a wolf, there's a wolf, there's a wolf. And if you learn that language, man, it's like a cheat code.
Yeah.
You know?
I bet.
And so magpies, especially when I'm looking for mountain lions and things like that, and bears. And, you know, I might be following tracks and tracks run out. And I'm standing there and I just say, if you sit down long enough and listen, there's an animal that's telling you where it's at. And it's a cheat code.
Are they normally like on a kill and making those calls about the lion or the wolves that they see, or is it just random, do you think? Because you're tracking them, hoping they kill something, right? So you can get photos and video.
Yeah, right.
And is that generally when you hear the magpies when they're on a kill?
Sometimes on a kill.
Yeah.
So the kill sounds very different. If they're looking at a cat, it's a very different call than if they're on a kill eating.
Oh, I see.
But I know them both pretty well.
Okay. Yeah.
And and it's, so there's a story being told all the time, and if you can start to tune into it, it makes you magic, man. It really does. But it's one of those things. You talk to the Native Americans or some of these old trappers who just really depended on that. They knew all this stuff. And they knew it so much more deep than that.
Oh yeah, that's You know, where I hunt down there on the San Carlos, I remember one of the Native Americans down there told me that, I don't know, I mean, you kind of make assumptions and you make, I don't know, these things just work out, and all of a sudden it's you're verifying thoughts that you might have had. But he was hunting this bull, and he said something about that he was thinking he's thirsty, so he should go to water, because he's thinking if he's thirsty, the bull's probably thirsty. So they both went to water at the same time. But just point is just being that in tune with that animal, the conditions, how he was feeling, and also not making it individuals, like just thinking, well, I wonder how this is affecting the animal I'm after, you know. And it was right. He was right. But that's just that level of, you say, being in tune and listening and just being aware.
It's just time, like you said, it's reps, right?
Yeah.
And now you just, you're out there, and I think we all have the ability to do it. Mm-hmm. It's a matter if we're willing to listen to it. When we're out in the wild, we put our phones down for a bit and just sit there and listen and watch. When I was a kid, my dad would take us out hunting, and we would sit on a ridge sometimes and watch other hunters move up the hill, right? Mm-hmm. And there's like this idea of like these like almost circles around them. Like as they move, you know, they influence this.
Right.
And this influences
bumping
that.
Everything.
And you watch people, and those who are good, mm-hmm. their bubble's really small, mm-hmm. right? And it's because they know how to move across the landscape. They're paying attention to things. Sometimes they don't even know that they are. It's just instinctual.
Right.
And the more reps you're out there in the wild, those instincts become part of your behavior, and you're successful. And so you just watch these things. So and I think a lot of time, as a hunter, what I love about watching the best hunters on the planet, mountain lions, wolves, things like that, is learning how to be a hunter from them. Mm. You know, if you watch like a mountain lion move on a mule deer, and you can actually use some of those same strategies, mm-hmm. you're gonna be good, man. I mean, it's just like, and you know this. I'm preaching to the choir here, but you know, just getting the state of the mind of that mountain lion. It's like, you know, they lock in on something, and there's no lateral movement, right?
Right.
This is what an elk's going to see, right? Mm-hmm. Everything becomes very focused. They find the shadows. They stay in them. You know, they slip and mm-hmm. they move, and they're watching that elk, and they just make that. And then there's those moments where they make these crazy moves in there, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, I would never do that.
Like to the animal, or
towards the animal. They close that gap, and like, I don't know. There's this thing.
But it's not to kill it. It's before that, or
it's before,
when?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're just taking advantage of a subtle moment. Mm. And they make these aggressive move towards them. There's, you know, and they slip in real quick.
If the bull's eye was blocked by a rock or something,
right?
So
maybe it just dips its head down, and they just zip in really quick. You know,
I haven't seen a lion hunt before.
Yeah, and they just make these like I remember this one time I watched this cat. She was stalking up on 2 cow elk, and they both put their head down, and there was this big bunch of crunchy snow that was in front of her. It was probably 20 feet, and she had to get across it somehow. And she watched those heads go down, and she just, as soon as they went down, she made this huge jump towards them. I mean, over the top, and then landed and just froze. But
that's awesome.
She knew that this was going to make noise. Yeah. She'd been there, done that, and been busted 1,000 times.
Right.
And she knew that she was going to wait for that right moment. As soon as those heads went down, she just leapt right over top of it and just hit the ground like a ninja and just froze and just waited again.
Yeah, wait for another opportunity.
And you know, the other thing I learned is, you know, with hunting, and again, I've killed a lot of elk with my bows, but not like you or a lot of. I'm mid of the pack kind of guy.
Well, Montana, you got some good hunting there for sure.
Yeah, it's good, but man, like I said, one of the strategies is just like, you know, when you're in close to those elk, when those cats get in there, they don't waste time, because the longer you sit there, the more chances the wind's going to change, the more chances a cow elk's going to walk over here and spot you. So when they get in there, there's this thing, when they've closed the gap, they're aggressive. Mm-hmm. And I've used that tactic in hunting, and it's something I've learned literally by watching mountain lions, and it makes my success rate go up.
I used to, I haven't done it lately, but back in the day when I first started, because I was hunting very high pressured elk, but I would like run in the middle of the herd. Yeah. And it wasn't when I was after like giant bulls, but I'm after like any bull, right? So I would run, I was like envisioning what you were just explaining, into the middle of the herd, and you could get a shot before they figured out how to react, what to do, which way to go, and you're just standing in the middle of them, and they're all just staring, but if, you know, you can take advantage of that.
In that confusion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're in that moment, they're all confused. Mm-hmm. You don't give them a time to think about it, and by the time that they're thinking about it, there's an arrow already in the air.
Yeah, it's you know, I think one of the things you mentioned too about how and we both have, about how always learning or being out there and observing. I think until you get all those reps, and you know how it is, you take somebody new hunting, they're just focused on the one step in front of their feet, and they're trying not to kick rocks, step on sticks, not make this noise, and their head's not up. They're not looking around. They're not observing anything other than the 1 or 2 feet in front of them. And then what I've noticed too, because I've taken so many people, is like, I don't know. You said maybe it's not even conscious, maybe it's subconscious, but I barely glance down. Most of the time, my head's up, and I'm always and I don't have to look down where my feet are. It's either peripheral or whatever. But just little stuff like that just comes with time, just reps and just noticing things. And you said, like, the lion stays in the shadow, always stay in the shadow. You say that lateral movement. I know I'm always like trying to keep my arms in close, walking with my bow like this. My arms aren't like this. Even my legs definitely aren't like this. They're in that line. So when you said that, I was thinking, and I do think about that. Like, I want my profile to be as just as static as possible.
Focused, right? You almost feel your body just kind of just sink in like that.
Right, because, the biggest thing people could do is, of course, the back of their hands and like point at something like that. If you that far away from your body, an animal, I don't even know how they could be a long way away and see that movement, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, that's an extreme example, but just staying tight, as you mentioned. What have you learned from wolves?
Well, the way they use the landscape. One thing about wolves, a lot of the pack animals is you'll see a pack of wolves moving on a group of elk, right? And you think, okay, point A to point B, they're going to work this like this. And all of a sudden they stop and they'll back up and they'll start going back this way. And you think, where the hell are they going, right? Well, they know the landscape in the grand form. Yeah. Right. They know how the winds move. They know if they go straight at it, those elk are gonna see them. The wind's gonna switch to their back, and they're gonna be gone. They're gonna be busted, and they're gonna be gone. But they know if they run this ridge up the backside of it, and they come over this way, and then they all land out here, those elk are gonna feed right into them. So their knowledge of the landscape is, it's one of those things. They stop down, they all just think about it, and then they all start to move. They all know it, right? And they just go and they get in that position, and they have to. That's how they eat, right? Yeah. And if they make mistakes, it's crazy. But I think with animals, and I've seen it with bears and mountain lions and wolves and all kinds of them, we think of them being just a super instinctual creature. I got to eat now. Yeah,
kill.
And they're thinking. They're thinking all the time. And when they go out there, they've learned. They know these areas. They've got a map in their head. They know that they can go back a mile this way and go catch this little gully up like that, pop over the ridge over here, and they're going to nail it. They know that map. And there's a complexity about animals. If you sit there and watch them over and over and over again, it's kind of mind-blowing. Because, there's some aspect, I think, as humans, we don't want these animals to be thinkers. You know what I mean?
Right. We have that advantage, we think.
Right. Yeah. And so when you see them have these kind of complex strategies and stuff like that, that's... It makes me want to know more. The longer I'm out there, the more I'm witnessing animals doing stuff, the more I realize the less I know. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
And there's so much to learn. And to see these animals, the wisdom that they have. A bear on the landscape can live to be 30 years, right?
Right, yeah.
They're out there every day.
A lot of life experience.
And to think about that, the wild wisdom that they have. Yeah. So if you can sit there and just watch them for a little bit and try to just gather a piece of that, man, that's huge.
Yeah, we talk about, if you hunt all of September, man, you hunted a lot. Imagine these animals all day, every minute for decades, for 30 if you're a bear. And yeah, so we think we're get good at hunting by hunting a month straight. Yeah. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of, I'm a big UFC fan. So if you talk about, like, they have fighters go train with Khabib over in Dagestan, and they're like, oh, I'm going to be, spent 5 weeks over there. I'm on a whole nother level. I'm like, well, he's been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. So you're not even close to making that gap up.
And then all the wisdom his dad had, they handed on. And, and there's just a cumulative, wisdom from generation to generation, which animals have the same, which is insane.
That example you shared with the wolf, the wolves, it reminds me, because you said they might know this goalie, they go back 1.5 miles. That's a big advantage. Hunters wouldn't really do that. Hardly any hunters would go back 1.5 miles, even though if a wolf was doing it, it must be the best way to take advantage of whatever that herd of elk was doing. But because they're in such good shape or can cover so much country, I mean, they're not working out to get in shape, obviously, but they can cover country so easily. 1.5 miles is nothing. They'd probably do that in I don't know how long, and then they're in position for that herd of elk. But that's
it's a lazy two-legger. And
Yeah.
you watch them do that. Sometimes you think they're leaving. And no, but and then you watch them, and then you realize when you see it all come together, like that was all strategy, all thought out. They know how to move on the landscape, like you said, and they're fit. And they're fit because they're out there all the time.
Right.
They can. I mean, I don't know, you get me into all kinds of things about my opinion, but if you're a hunter, man, you should be fit. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
You don't see any big fat lazy wolves and grizzly bears out there. They're all ripped.
We're pretty lucky that it's not survival of the fittest these days.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have many people surviving. But yeah, it's I don't know. I think that's interesting too. I wonder. So have you seen wolves? You know how when you're hunting, the thermal switch mid-morning and start going up. You can come in from the top then to get in bow range. Do wolves or animals know that the wind's going to change like that and take advantage of that?
For sure.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And in fact, I've watched actually African lions do this and wolves do this. So pack animals. So they know that the thermal is going to switch. So you'll see them split, right? So 3/4 of the pack will go and get in a spot where the
Downwind.
And then they'll send one upwind and purposely. So when the wind switches, they all kind of get in a spot. And then when the wind switches, they send that one out. Now that whiff of that one wolf just comes and drills the herd. Herd just starts, ears all go up. They all start pointing. They're looking that way. And then they slip in behind. And as they start panicking and start moving, they just move right into their pack. And it's one of those things you sit there and watch and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
They just did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, could we do that? You know what I mean? And it's, and you can.
It's what's crazy to think about animals. So we can take these tactics or learn from them. How they have to get their mouths on these animals.
Yeah, they're killing with their mouth.
Their mouth, and it's like we can barely get in bow range, or if you're good, it happens. But our mouths aren't on these animals, killing them.
No,
it's such another level.
I mean, every single day that they eat, they kill with their mouth. Mountain lion is one of my favorites because it's doing by itself.
Right.
And it's taking out elk, animals that are so much bigger than they are sometimes. And this was one female, that one I was telling you about that I followed year after year. I mean, I learned so much from her.
I bet.
So there's mountain lions kill one of 3 ways in general. They usually pinch the trachea. They bite on right here and they just hang on until it chokes out. Or a big male is often they'll bite in the back and break the vertebrae. But the way she killed is probably the more unique way. Is that she would put her mouth on their mouth. And she would just hang on with her claws on their shoulder and kind of come up underneath and just put her mouth and suffocate them with her mouth. And one thing I just loved about it every time I found
Kind of unethical, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But what was so cool is that animal's last breath was her breath.
Yeah, that's
right. And they're looking right in the animal's eyes and watching them.
Could you imagine? Not the best way to go.
No, not the best way to go. But
I mean,
every time
how long
she
does it
ate,
take? How long would that take?
Depended, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say about 10 minutes.
It's a long 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're hanging on for a long time. And the animal's doing everything it can to
I bet.
get away. And it's just a rodeo. Imagine every time you wanted to eat something, you got to go kill something with your mouth.
I was thinking about that too. Most people, you know how meal prep is a thing? Like, I got a meal prep because I want to lose weight. They can't even do that.
Right,
So
exactly.
Then they go to McDonald's or wherever. There's like, wait, you couldn't cook a couple chicken breasts because that's a hassle? Meanwhile, these animals are out killing with their mouths every single time they want to eat.
Yeah.
There's no other options really.
No, and they get hurt. That's the other thing. It's like, it's tough. I mean, they get beat up.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, so many times I've watched animals limp away from the thing that they just killed, and then they go lick their wounds, and then they sit there and they try to recover, and they go back and eat. And sometimes they don't come back.
Yeah, it's I do respect. I've seen animals. I don't know why this made me think of it, but I like how animals just kind of get to work on whether they get hurt, or I've even seen dogs get all muddy. They don't like if somebody gets muddy, they're looking down at themselves. They're like, oh my God, I'm such a mess, this and that. What do I got to do? A dog will just come in from being muddy, lay down and just start licking. Hey, let's get this cleaned up. There's no, I don't know. It's just so different. But even like getting hurt, trying to kill something, you said they go lick their wounds. Would they literally lick their wounds? They got to clean this out. I got to see what's wrong, figure out how I'm still going to kill. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking in their head, but that's what I'm imagining. And they just like, way it goes.
Oh yeah,
This
got to
is
get
it.
back because they can't stop doing it.
No, got to get this cleaned up.
And some that don't live, some die from it. I've seen a mountain lion got beat up enough that she probably broke some ribs, had some internal injuries, and she ended up dying from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was just all from tackling an elk and getting smashed on the rocks.
Brutal. Well, hey, want to try one of these?
I do, yeah. I've been curious about this for a while.
Okay. What did I say? It was it's kind of like a cookie dough blizzard.
All right. That sounds pretty good.
Let's see what you think.
Yeah, exactly. Cookie dough blizzard.
It's an acquired taste.
That's
Trust me.
actually not terrible.
It's when I thought it was terrible, but now I'm used to it. Now I kind of like it.
Yeah, and I found that things that are usually pretty good for you don't usually taste that great.
No, that's why I don't eat vegetables.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so but I do think
That's pretty good.
it actually works. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of addicted to them now. Before I go running or before I do a podcast, I do it all the time. It's supposed to help with cognitive and what Tour de France guys use it, so it must work, right?
It must, yeah, and we'll see how it works. So let's see. We got some time here to see if I kick in and get more smart or not.
Yeah, I think another thing when I was like researching you is what I tell my wife I'm doing when I'm on my phone all the time. I'm doing research.
I mean, you are. Dude, I have the same conversation with my wife. We have a weird job.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And sometimes, I mean, you get to be on your phone for hours looking at stuff like that.
Right.
And that's part of the job.
And sometimes you get ideas from, it might seem like you're wasting time, but like I know real ideas I always get from watching other reels.
Yep,
But
100%.
whatever. It's probably not the most productive, but it works. Oh yeah. So Brutus, tell me about that.
Yeah.
That was a big part of your life.
Huge
for a
part of
while.
my life. Yeah. So, going back and forth, filmmaking, a lot of times I would go work at a wildlife park or something. Mm-hmm. And I was working at a wildlife park and they had a grizzly bear. They had 2 grizzly bears and they ended up having cubs. And it was this place that the cubs were a bit of an attraction. Mm-hmm. And then once the cubs kind of got big enough, they didn't necessarily want them around because they were like, people love to look at little cubs. People look at
like
big
puppies.
Bears. Yeah, but they don't want to look at this awkward little teenage bear. So they were going to get rid of this bear. And I was aware of it. Mm-hmm. And I was 25 years old. And I thought to myself, I need a grizzly bear.
That is awesome.
And so, yeah, I just got permits and stuff and arranged to get him. And I raised a bear. I mean, when I first got him, he was about that big.
Yeah, so cute.
And it's one of those things, as a Montana kid, you go out and you see grizzly bears. Mm-hmm. You hear about grizzly bears all the time. It's usually not good.
Right.
There's always the intrigue, the romanticism of like raising a grizzly bear, Grizzly Adams. You hear about all that stuff.
Yeah,
too,
I used to watch that show.
Yeah, and so it's like, I had this opportunity and I made it happen. And I think when you're 25, you think you're smart.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a crazy ass idea. I mean, crazy. Because I always like to say there's not a manual like how to raise a grizzly bear, right? You just, there's not like a lot of dudes running around that know how to do it. So you just learn. And yeah, so I raised him and he grew up to be, he lived to be 20 years old. And, he was 800 pounds when he was full grown. So, 8-9 feet tall. But, it taught me a lot.
I've been taking Ketone IQ for the past year and have seen tremendous benefits, including mental clarity, increased focus, and more energy. Anytime I take the shot, I feel smarter. When I have on some really smart people like Andrew Huberman on the podcast, it can be intimidating because actually I'm not that smart. Nobody's ever called me smart. So that's an uphill battle for me. Ketone IQ gives me a little more mental clarity, which I always could use. I also bring Ketone IQ with me on many long runs and races for that matter, because I feel like it does give me a little bit of an edge. I've been lucky enough to spend some time with the people that run Ketone IQ, like Michael Brandt for one, and he's just the type of guy I want to surround myself with, a winner, cares about performance, cares about doing things the right way, and just trying to find ways to get that edge. You know, he's a runner himself, and so we can connect on that, but it's been a great partnership for me. What I will say, you can get Ketone IQ, you can try it yourself using code CAM to save 30% off on your first subscription at ketone.com/CAM today. Mudwater is a Healthy Habits brand best known for its popular caffeine alternative. It's got 4 functional mushrooms, and the purpose is to never leave you feeling jittery. Don't get me wrong, I love coffee and usually drink 5 to 6 cups a day, but Mudwater has helped me cut back a little bit, especially once afternoon hits. I still even throw a little Mudwater in with my coffee, and they have a really good coffee creamer with MCT oil. Each ingredient was added for a purpose. Cacao and chai for a hint of caffeine and hot chocolate-like flavor. Lion's mane for focus, and both chaga and reishi to support healthy immune system. Plus, it's Whole30 approved, 100% USDA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. Mudwater donates monthly to support psychedelic research and has since day one. They believe the country is in a mental health epidemic and that psychedelic-assisted therapy is one of the most effective tools we have to treat mental health conditions. Mudwater is hooking up my show with a special offer. If you go to mudwater.com/CamHaines, you get a free frother and $20 off. That's mudwater.com/CamHaines for a free frother and $20 off.
You know, bears are interesting. I mean, you know, bears, they're just, they're an interesting animal. And I think when you start thinking about bears, particularly, they're dynamic. You know, I make this comparison, and I've done this before, but to dogs, right? We all have had dogs. We all have had buddies who have dogs. We've met these individual personality dogs, right? There's the big fat lazy dog. There's the dog you pull the frisbee out and it's going to go hyper and catch frisbee all day long. There's a mean dog. There's a good dog. There's all these dogs, and they all have these different personalities. And we know that with dogs. But when we think about bears, we don't think about that. We think that bear is a bear is a bear.
Right? Yeah.
You know, it's you know, eat, sleep, shit. You know, hibernate, do it all over again. But bears they're so dynamic. They have, you know, they live long on the earth. They're all these experiences. There's kind of the recipe of who they are, just like us, right?
Yeah.
And they're born with a certain personality type too. And Brutus was just the most laid back, chill, forgiving, patient bear. Like he just, you know, and I think that, you know, raising a bear, you know, obviously that's the kind of bear you want when you're raising a bear.
Yeah, for sure.
And I started learning that. And there's other bears that I've around and would see, but then even being around him, I'd go out in the wild doing my job, and there's things that I learned from him. You know, we are that close every day to a bear. Talk about body language. Yeah. Like you start learning such little subtle things. And when you go out in the wild and you start watching bears, you're like, oh, he's gonna get up, or he's gonna scratch his back, or he's gonna go to that tree right there. I already know that. And everybody look at me like, how do you know that? I'm like, yeah. Because I live with a bear. I have a bear. When I'm out here filming bears, I go home to a bear. And then when I'm done with that, I go back out into the wild with a bear. So you spend enough time, you just start getting these little intricacies. But with that, you know, it's like, you know, bears are interesting because like people and like dogs, like the thing I just laid out there, those personality types, there's bad ones too, you know, and you've got to know that. And what I love about that is when you're out in the wild and you're around bears and other animals, to know that there's kind of an array of personalities, to me makes it more interesting.
Definitely.
You know, because when you encounter a bear, that situation is going to be very different every single time. Just as if you go out in Eugene right now, and there's different parts of town that you go out, walk around at midnight, and there's a different type of people that might be out during that time. It's the same with bears. Yeah. You know, you might walk into a bear who's had a really rough go, who's maybe dealt with people in a different way before, and it's going to take it out on you. Yeah. But you have to be able to recognize that. It's life or death, you know? And what I gained from Brutus, I mean, I think that was the main thing. You know, when you hear about a bear, and most people listen, and you, I mean, everybody, most of the time it's because they've done something wrong. Yeah. Yeah. And it's made a headline. Bear, you know, bear mauls bow hunter. Right. I mean, and it's But are bears out there mauling bow hunters all the time? No. But usually, if you dig into it, it's a pretty bad luck. You know, a guy stumbled on a bear and got too close, and there's a carcass around the corner at a cub or something, or he doesn't know how to make a cow call right, and he called it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but most of the time bears are pretty chill. But there are times. I mean, I probably have had, not hundreds of thousands, but probably 10,000 bear encounters in my life. And I've been charged probably 5 times. I've charged bears more than I've been charged.
Yeah. Is it like what? I don't. I was going to get your perspective on this, but to me, when that's happened, it's been like juvenile. It seems like males, like maybe that have maybe got their ass kicked, maybe life's not going that great. Just like when you're a regular teenage boy, it's a tough time. Are those the most aggressive ones that you've seen?
They're the most unpredictable.
Okay, yeah. Maybe that's a better way to term it.
They're the ones, like when I said I've charged more bears than I've been charged. Just like a teenage boy, that's a great analogy because when you encounter them, they are insecure. They've been picked on, and bears they play this game of space and nature. If you see them together, they're always trying to take each other's space, and space is everything. Right. So if they've had their space,
that's their currency, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah. So when they encounter another animal and they've been being picked on, they look at you and go, "I'm going to take this dude's space," and they come over and they try to, and they start to crowd you. They start giving you this, and if you give it to them, even this much, they see that like that, and they're going to take another bit. Yeah, and they're going to take a little bit more, and then it can be bad.
Yeah.
So those teenage males that you're talking about, they're the ones that have scared me the most, with the exception of one big male that I could tell you that story. But in those situations, what you do is everything. If you give in, like I'm not kidding you, like it goes like this at you, and you just do this one little tiny bit. It sees that like a billboard. Yeah, and it's going to go for it. Right. So it's a matter of understanding that, having confidence enough to know that game. And when that bear gives you this, and that you either gave it a step back, straight back to it, right, or just hold your ground so hard and believe. It's a game of mental chicken. Yeah, for sure. You got to believe that your 200-pound ass is going to take that thing on in your head. Because if you don't, that weakness is going to shine like a billboard on you. And it's just this game. It sounds so crazy when I talk about this, but these are the things I learned from Brutus. Yeah, I bet. And it's just, again, the repetition of and being around these bears and watching them and feeling it. And again, you know, I get out there, I've had tens of thousands of encounters, and I know every single time that I go out there that could be my last. It's the reality of being in nature. A bear could kill me tomorrow. People wish for it on the internet all the time. Yeah. You know, and people are nuts. And I know that. And I think it's part of it is that you got to put that in your head, but then you say to yourself, how can I prepare myself to be the best wild version of myself? How can I go out there and live and survive? And, you know, and it's preparing yourself with knowledge, man. You shouldn't be out there playing these games if you don't know. Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, when you were explaining that, that just like these micro movements, it made me think, because, you know, I hunt with the rivets up there in Alberta all the time, and it's just black bear, but they're still, whatever, there's still risks with black bear. Oh, yeah. But I sit on the ground all the time, so you're even smaller. Right. So you get this bear that's probably weighs, I don't know, maybe 250. When I'm sitting on the ground, I look small. He's like, oh, he's got the advantage. Right. Well, the one time I was thinking about is I was sitting there and I had a knife in the tree sticking above me, but I was kind of like, I can't remember how I was, but he started to come and to stand up. I had to like lean back to push against the tree to get leverage to use my legs because I had my bow there. All I did, on my knees, tree right here, bear right here, like maybe just 4 yards away, but I just leaned back just to feel where the tree was so I could push up. But lean back maybe not even 6 inches. That was it. Here he comes. Yeah. And John was like, no, you know, he yells at him. It's like, as you said, you got to take a step forward or match their aggressiveness, something. But it was that exact scenario where it was inches. But when it's an animal who can't say, hey, I don't want any problems, or
I'm going to kick your ass. They're all body language.
That's it.
All body language. So they're just everything you do is speaking to them essentially. But
Yep.
your explanation of that just reminded me of that perfectly.
No, you were in the mix. I mean, I'm sure there was food involved too.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
definitely.
like it's very
Yeah, there's a lot of dynamic factors to consider, and other bear.
Yeah,
in
no,
there.
for sure.
And I don't know what happened. You know, normally the younger bear would come in, and then when the big boar comes in, it's like. And I had this on a video too. I was going to ask you about this, but I've had bear where they couldn't smell, the wind was coming to me. They couldn't see because it's thick, but they knew that the big bear was coming. And I thought in my head, they're so in tune with picking up like, you know, steps that they knew it was a heavier bear, could just tell.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that it would full circle back to what we were talking about with birds.
Yeah.
I think that the forest told them. And I'll tell you what's amazing about the big bear like that.
Okay.
It's not that something went meh, 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 in the tree and said there's a big bear. Often it's no sound at all. And I'll tell you, when you're in nature,
Just dead quiet.
and there's no sound,
That's
scarier than anything. Because that means if everybody's shutting up,
Yeah.
that means there's a big dude around.
Okay, I see.
And I'll guarantee that's what it was.
Oh, that
So
may
there's
have
like
been.
the forest, you know, has its normal kind of din, right?
Right.
There's just always, you know, a squirrel over here, a bird chirping over here. There's always this din. But when everything goes quiet, it's usually because they're all focused on something that scares them.
I see. Yeah.
And so I bet that's my guess.
Yeah.
Is that if there was no wind, there was no sight involved, those bears heard something else change, and they heard
Okay.
this silence across the forest that realized it's like the big dude's here. Get ready, everybody.
Yeah, because that makes sense. I think why I put that together was I saw a smaller bear. It seemed like trying to walk harder, and I don't want to give these bears too much credit, but also on another time I'm like, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, right?
Yeah.
But I saw this younger bear kind of, and I was like, is he trying to sound heavier?
Well, that behavior is a posturing of
Right.
thing. So maybe, I mean, that's interesting. I never thought of that. Here, I mean, it's one of the things. Like I tell you from the top, I'm learning all the time.
Well,
I mean, why do they do that thing?
I don't know.
Maybe that's why.
That's the beauty of animals, I guess, and also having that mindset of learning. You know, you just said you've been out there as much or more than, I don't know, 99.9% of the people on this earth, and you're still learning. So it's like, that's when we stop learning, is when we think we know it all. We're not picking anything up. But when you always have that, what can I learn today? Or just observing, man.
It's changing all the time too. That's the thing. I mean, as the world's changing, we know that, right? I mean, I've watched the animals adapt and change their behavior, and I've got some great examples of that. I've watched a mountain lion kill a mule deer, and the reason why it was successful is because there was a 747 flying over the top.
I've used that sound.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so, and animals are doing the same thing. Dude. They
Right.
listen and they wait, and there's just something to distract. They're going to utilize that time. I mean, and that just shows right there your experience of knowing that you can use that airplane going over the top to close the distance. That shows that you're in tune as much as they are.
Yeah, I mean, you take advantage of whatever you can out
Yeah.
there. I was curious, where I've learned the most from people is Africa. It's like there's so much, to me. I know there's some really good people here. I'm not taking away from anything from what you do and your skills that you've earned, but I don't know. It's like their ability to track in ground that, because I'm just like, what?
Magic, dude.
Asking them-
Magic.
I don't know Swahili, but I know enough to be like, ask, what are you seeing? I mean, it's
dude,
rock, dude.
there's nothing there.
It's rock.
100%. I spent a couple years in Botswana, and there's a guy who kind of took me under his wing, who was a San bushman.
Okay.
Some of the best trackers in the world.
That's who you want to learn from.
Yeah, and
I
I-
want to hunt with the Maasai too at some point.
Oh, I agree, dude. I want to go
Yeah.
hang out with those guys and learn, because it's so magic. Again, it's thousands, millions of years
Yeah.
of knowledge, and they're so close to that time when they had to know these things, right?
To survive.
And I've had that exact same thing. Guy's name is Julius, and he called me Bear Man, 3 lion, And I'd look at the grass and I'd go, what are you talking? There's just a grasshopper.
Yeah.
Right. and you know, and we're like in tune guys. We're like,
Yeah.
you really want to learn? I'm like, just show me what you see.
Right.
He says, you don't see that. I'm like, no, I don't see that. And then you follow it and you go up and there's 3 big male lions. And you're just like, what?
Right.
And
I wonder what he was seeing. Was he seeing the grass spread where they had walked, or did you ever figure it out?
Well, he said it's you know, L tracking's pattern recognition. Right?
Yeah.
And he said it was grass doing this, catching.
Oh, I see.
But it was so few and far that your eye would never see it.
Right.
But that disruption of pattern, regular pattern, he was so keen to it that he could see that. And then he knows width of a male between a female and a male walking, which is about that far.
Right.
And to see that amongst that pattern recognition,
that's
magic.
Awesome,
it looks like magic.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I could tell you so many stories about the songs. They would say things like, I remember one time I was trying to look for a chameleon. Mm-hmm. And I've been looking for chameleons. And he's like, I know where a chameleon is. This guy hasn't even been in the area. He's like, go to this pan, take this trail. There'll be like 4 trees and there'll be one on the top. And I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, no way. Like, there was no way I tried to put my head together. Like, is there any way he would think there's a chameleon there? So one day we drove down there and we go to that tree and I look over and I shine the light and there's a chameleon sitting there. And I have no explanation for it.
Yeah.
Magic.
That's what, and what I've noticed too, well, the rocks, and on that time there was some scuff marks, but I mean, you know, we think we're good if we're in dirt or mud,
right? And
we know what a bull kind of a stride length is as opposed to a cow, you know, and like, oh man, we're really dialed in. We got this down, you know, but they're like looking at a scuff mark from a hoof on a rock, maybe every 30 yards. And that's the path. It's like,
and it's so clear to them.
Yeah.
It's like, someone just wrote a note, right, and told exactly the size and the sex of the animal and put it right there in their mind. I mean, and they're so good. But here's the thing, Cam. We're all capable of it.
Right. Well,
we really are.
I've tried, but I think it takes more than 3 weeks in Tanzania. One thing, oh God, what was I going to say? Also, they're so good, which as a bow hunter, you know how hard it is for most people, to go where the animal was when you shot. You know, obviously if it's a longer shot, it's even harder. But most people shoot. Some don't even know what pin they used or whatever. We'll just assume we did better than that, right? But they shoot at the animal, and then they're over there looking for their arrow or where the animal was. That is hard. Yeah. When you're, say, 60 yards from the animal, you take a shot, knowing, wait, was it by this one or was it by, you know, that they can go exactly where that animal was, and usually right to your arrow if it went through, or right on the path. And I'm just like, I have so much work to do to get better at this.
And no, that's exactly right. I mean, it's so inspiring.
Yeah, it is. I just want to live. Not live over there. We have it pretty good here, but I want to learn. Yeah. You know, and just being over there it's a wild place. Definitely. You know, it's like, you know, human life it's valued a little differently over there, but man, from those guys, you can learn so much.
No, I agree. It's been kind of a bucket list thing to go and like just immerse myself for a year and just go live and follow. Try to get this. If you could pick up that much.
Oh, imagine how good you'd be.
Yeah. I know. I think that's just one of those things. It's just like, it's part of the reason why it keeps you going out there every time. Because every time you go out there, you'll learn something new. Mm-hmm. And if you take that and you take the next day and the next day, you learn a little bit more. I think that's, again, you can just crack in the code.
Yeah. And they're used over there. What I noticed, they're used to usually rich white guys who don't really know shit.
They're just completely distracted.
Yeah.
And they don't want to learn shit.
No. So it's like every time I've been over there, it's been great. We got along great. I could just learn. They'd let me, do whatever. And I just feel really lucky. But I think it makes a difference with your attitude that you take over there. And are you really a student?
Yeah, they see it in your eyes. They see the curiosity. They know who they want to. They know who's you're going to give you. They're going to give you that time.
Yeah,
if you want it and deserve it. Yeah,
man, it's I've never learned more than I did over there for sure from from those people. So Brutus, was he hired out for movies and stuff too? Did you do?
We did a little bit of that.
Yeah,
and we only did. It was one of those things that I never really wanted to get into it, but there was some opportunities where I knew that it was going to be fun for him because he really did love to just go and do things. And it was a time when I could, pull up a trailer, load him out of his area, and he'd see that trailer pull up, and it was like pulling the leash off for a dog, and we're going somewhere, right? Yeah. And we would go do something cool.
Go on a walk.
Yeah, and it was always fun because I could take him out and I could set up a huge area for him to run around and do something. So if those opportunities came along, and it would make a little money, we would do it, but only if it was fun, because I think that was a part of it. I'm a hypocrite, man. I'm not that.
We all are.
Yeah, I'm not that into like captive animals and stuff. But I had a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it goes wrong in some of the stuff that you see on TV is because people are making an animal do something. And if you're pushing a big predator to do something every single day, that's a scary bit. Yeah. And I never, I was smart enough to know, like, I'd watch him, and if it was something and he looked at me and gave me that look, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do it today. And he never was aggressive towards me. I mean, the only
never
time,
had an issue.
No, again, he would go maybe or something at me, and I would go, okay, I'm done.
Like for different reasons.
Like I'm just trying to think of an example. Like maybe I'm taking something away that he wanted, and he would just give me like no, I want to keep this.
Yeah.
And that's a bad game because if I let him keep it, then I'm showing weakness. Yeah. But the only time he ever hurt me is like rolling over on top of me, 100 pounds,
on accident.
Yeah, would hurt. But I'm lucky. Again, there's a lot of internet warriors about this guy's gonna get killed by his bear, and
well, they were right with Timothy Treadwell.
They were. No, and gosh, that's a whole nother can of worms. That guy, but
he's nuts.
He was an interesting guy. I'll tell you. You want to talk about that?
Sure.
I've been there, that same spot. I've been to the place he's been killed.
Okay.
I've spent the same amount of time.
Was it on the peninsula or on an island?
It was in Katmai.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And talk about, and those bears there are some of the chillest bears on the planet. If you know the game there, you can get away with a lot. He was a guy who obviously had some issues, but he did live there for 14 summers and nothing happened.
Yeah.
By himself.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
A lot of contact time with bears.
And so there's something that, and I don't like to judge anybody. I've never shook their hand or looked them in the eye.
Yeah.
And, and if right now, if, Connor took our archive footage from your hard drive and my hard drive and decided to make a character piece about us in the way he wanted to. Yeah. He could make a pretty crazy one, right? We could make us look pretty crazy. So knowing all that, Treadwell obviously had some issues, but I can't judge him too much. And from what I know about that bear that killed him and his girlfriend, that bear would have killed you and me that day. Yeah. The problem is that we as humans are not capable of going mano a mano with a big bear who's hungry. And if you don't take bear spray, you don't take a handgun, you don't put a hot wire around your camp, you're going to play even ground out there in nature, you're not going to win.
No.
Yeah. And that's where it went wrong with him.
Was this bear hungry, you think?
Yeah. It was October, hyperphagia. It was an older bear who was not fat. Desperate bear. Desperate bears, man. Desperate anything. Yeah. There's lines that most animals won't cross. Thank God for us. But when they're desperate, they think about crossing that line. And that day, that bear decided, I'm hungry. The salmon run's terrible. I have to go into hibernation and try to live off the body fat that I've got for 6 months, and I don't have any. And there's two people over there in a little Twinkie wrapper. Yeah, yeah. And he and that's what he did. He went over there and he engaged, and they had no way to protect themselves, and he ate them. Yeah,
it's I think it seems like Treadwell would have been a little more dialed in. No, because there's one thing about camping out there if the creek or river's full of salmon. Yeah. I mean, if full of salmon, you probably don't have much to worry about. But as you said, with the slow run or whatever it was, that late in the year, you got to be smarter than that, don't you?
Understand where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, situational awareness. It's like, a bear in the wrong situation this time of year, it's pretty risky.
And be prepared, man. I've encountered that same bear, not literally that same bear, but that same state of mind. And I've had a bear look at me that was desperate and it was going to kill and eat me. And I was prepared. I had bear spray that day, and I knew what to do in the situation and how to react to that situation. But if I didn't that day, I'd be just like him, and everybody be talking about me right now.
Yeah, what an idiot.
Yeah, and they would.
Yeah.
And there's probably some
People
truth
love
to
doing
that.
that.
But
Yeah, I mean, obviously he had issues, but apparently he loved bear too. You know, he's out there, you said 14 years. It's like you don't spend that much time unless you care about what you're doing, I guess.
yeah, and he predicted it. It's probably the way he was going to go. And he wanted to live on their level. I mean, he at one point he did have a hot wire around his camp, and he did have bear spray, and he decided that he didn't want it anymore.
I saw him swimming with one, didn't he? Wasn't he out
man.
there in the water with one?
I'll tell you, I would actually love to take you there at some point.
Yeah.
Because it's a mind-blowing place.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Because every time I ever go there, we always talk about Treadwell, because you have to. I mean,
Yeah.
it's this iconic.
Yeah.
And you think of the crazy shit that guy did. You're there for 2 weeks, and you're like, I think I could touch that bear.
Yeah.
You do. You see it?
Yeah, I bet.
They kind of just coax you to this crazy space.
Yeah.
Because they just don't give a shit about you.
Right.
They sometimes don't even look at you. I mean, you've seen the video.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they'll come out and you watch them and you're thinking, this bear's not aggressive. This bear doesn't even know I'm here. This bear don't care. Or this bear's coming over just to look at me.
Yeah.
And it'll just come over and just plop right down next to you and look at you. And in most cases, if you don't know bear behavior, it can be very terrifying, right? Because, I mean, and I think this happens all the time, and it's a whole other can of worms, but I think people engage with bears because they think they're being threatened, but half the time it's not even a threatening situation. They're just freaked out because they don't understand.
Yeah, the bear's reacting to their reaction.
Yeah. And I watched a video the other day, and you may have seen this. It was a guy walking around the woods, and this like herd of cows came over to him. And he was probably a city guy. He'd never been around cattle at all. And
Like
they were
beef cows?
Yeah, they were like a bunch of steers, and they're friendly. I don't know if you ever had that. They come over, they're just like curious.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So he starts freaking out.
Yeah.
And in his mind, in that situation, that guy really thinks that he's going to die.
They're attacking him.
Yeah, and he's freaking out.
This
And he
is
ends
the
up
bulls
bears,
of Papillon.
and he ends up bear spraying him, right?
What?
Yeah. And when you watch it, it's hilarious. Oh. But he didn't know. And I think, honestly, a lot of people encounter bears in the wild, and they think they're in danger, and the way that they react and the way they engage actually causes the problem.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that'll tell me, well, whatever. But that's just the simple truth. They just don't know, and it's okay. But if you're going to go in bear country, not only prepare yourself by carrying a handgun or a bear spray or whatever, but prepare yourself about the animal that you might encounter, and try to understand them a little bit. I mean, if you're going to go in the wild and play in the wild, man, do something, right? Prepare yourself.
Yeah, no, that's good advice for sure. Just learn at least a few habits, tendencies, things like that. Yeah, especially if you have bear spray and if potentially going to use it. No, don't be spraying cows. What are you doing?
No, you got to see that video. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned something there. Also reminded me of something else, but when I was with Under Armour, we did a commercial with a wolf. And like you talked about, if you took something away from Brutus, he might react. Well, it reminded me when we did this commercial, this wolf had been domesticated for 11 years, but it's still a wolf. Yeah. And they said for the commercial, we wanted to make it snarl, like, because we were going after this bull elk, and then I got it. The wolf was supposed to be mad because I had the antlers on, whatever. But they said, okay, yeah, we can make a snarl, but because I took elk meat there, it said once it knows about the elk meat and we take it away, we're done. The filming's done today.
Yeah.
Because he's not gonna forget that. It's gonna be a while. So yeah, I mean, we had to do the last scene was this meat, take it away. The wolf was mad, but yeah, that was the end of the day. And
wild animal, man. Yeah, no matter how long it.
Right.
Yeah. 11 years getting its belly scratched. Add meat to a wolf's life.
Yeah.
It's still a wild animal. You cannot forget that ever.
Right. And that was pretty interesting to me. But just knowing that even though it had been domesticated for so long, that some things never change.
They don't.
And that one, I remember I asked how much that wolf cost. I think it was like $5,000 a day. We used it for a couple of days, but yeah. So it just made me think about filming with Brutus and if he's ever in movies, because some of those, like, God, what was it? I love the movie. The Edge. Is it The Edge? Yeah. That bear was in. Seemed like quite a few movies.
Yeah, Bart the bear.
Bart?
Yeah, it's a guy out of Heber City over in Utah. He had Bart 1 and Bart 2. Probably the guy. I mean, I know him. Doug Seuss is his name.
Okay.
And that's how they made a living, is making movies. I mean, The Edge. What was that one? There's a few of them.
There's one at Legends of the Fall.
Legends
I
of the
think.
Fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that bear, man, it was a Kodiak.
Yeah,
so,
huge
bear. I mean, a Kodiak is big, but a Kodiak that's been eating Twinkies and ice cream for its entire life, dude, 2,000 pounds.
Right. And I think in those movies, well, I know Legends of the Fall, that's supposed to be Montana.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a big bear
You're
from
not going to see that one in Montana.
It's like 1,500 pounds.
No, that bear was huge. And also a big, gentle giant.
Yeah, it looked like
Yeah.
it. I mean, they made him react. So he did a good job. I mean, good actor.
Yeah.
I don't know what
no,
they
for
did.
sure. Yeah, no, he's opening his mouth for a marshmallow or something.
Yeah,
but
probably.
and showing us totally 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Add sound and it looks like you're going to get killed.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, that was a epic scene at the end. Putting the what was it, the spear in the rocks,
let him
and then the bear
impale
comes.
himself.
What's the chances of that actually working in real
Man.
life?
I'll tell you what.
You'd have to have a lot go right, wouldn't you?
Oh, so much. This reminded me of something I completely forgot about. There was a guy, this was probably 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
He somehow found more information. He's like, I want to meet with you. I got this crazy proposition or this idea I want to talk to you about. I'm like, okay. So I met with him, and as soon as I see this guy, he looked like remember Boss Rutan?
Yeah.
Yeah. He looked just like that guy.
Pretty scary.
Yeah, and he comes walking over to me, and I'm like, "Who's this dude?" And he was like an ex-Navy SEAL or something.
Okay.
And he wanted to go kill an Alaskan brown bear with a broadsword. And he was trying to find an outfitter that would do it, and no outfitters would want to do it. But he had a guy who
They don't even like bow hunters, these outfitters, let alone sword.
but he believed he could do it. So he
Yeah.
wanted, and it was an interesting thing. He's like, I want to talk about tactic. I want to know if this is possible. Very similar to The Edge, like
Yeah.
can it engage with me, and I somehow can. The problem with movies is the bear doesn't engage that way. A bear does not run up to you and stand up and go.
No.
A bear is coming at you as fast as a racehorse, and it doesn't even break stride when it mows you over. And you don't even see it coming. It's a missile, right?
You think a linebacker hits hard?
Oh, exactly. And so that's how it's going to come. So if you can pull your broadsword out and hit something 30 miles an hour in a spot, then yeah. And so I kind of talked him out of it, but he was 100% really wanted to try to do this. That's the thing. They're lightning fast.
Yeah.
And they're smart. You know, there's stories of, they used to do these things in California, bear bull fights. It's like in the 1600s. It was very early on.
Yeah.
And they'd put these bears and bulls together. And there was like kind of this Super Bowl of bear bull fights. And this big California grizzly at the time had killed every bull that had ever been put in front of it. And so what they're going to do for this kind of Super Bowl thing was run bulls at it until it died and see how many. This bear killed 13 bulls before it fatigued enough that one finally gored it.
Whoa.
But he had a tactic. And that bear would rush him, and he would just kind of like a matador just steps aside and then come back with that paw.
Oh, the bull would rush him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would just smash the back of that, right in the back of the head, and kill the bull, break its neck like that. And the bear knew how to just tactic, right?
Yeah.
And knew how to deal with these bulls. And this shows that they're not only this perfect fighting specimen,
Yeah.
smart too, which is amazing.
Yeah, and fat. I mean, that just tells me how fast they are.
So fast.
But coming up with a tactic, yes, that's a little scary. But I've thought about this too. That's a fascinating story. I hadn't heard that. But if you've been in Africa, you've seen the baboons. And like I've been sitting on water before, and like a baboon shows up, and you're just like, whatever. Then another one shows up, and then they're like kind of talking a little bit, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of them. And I remember I was sitting there going, if these fucking things actually decided to like, hey, let's get that dipshit.
Yeah.
You know, baboons, I mean, their teeth are
Giant.
nasty and huge, and they're scary looking. And I was like, you kind of lull yourself into confidence, and they don't communicate like that. But man, if they did, not good.
No.
But that story kind of like, well, God, maybe these animals are smarter than what I'm giving them credit for.
They definitely are, man. I think that's one of those things, and it's a tough thing. You know, I'm pretty pragmatic.
Yeah.
I want to talk about facts, right? Especially when it comes to animals. You know, especially, you know, we talked about this earlier a little bit. Just people look at me and they don't. When I tell them I hunt elk and I eat elk and I've done that my entire life, they're like, "What? Aren't you like an animal lover?" And the truth is, I'm probably one of the biggest animal lovers in the world. I make a living by being around them and understanding them. And when it comes to these things, I just want to tell you what I know, right? I didn't go to school for this. I have a PhD of just being in the wild, and I don't pretend to know everything. But I think when you start to learn about these animals and start to see them for what they really are factually, it just changes your mind a little bit about them. You know, and I think you gotta combat the extremes, right? You know, there's a lot of people out there that think wolves are killing every elk on the planet. Bears are going to maul you every time you go in the woods. All that, there's some fact there. And then there's the other side. I mean, I like to call it the Jethros versus the moonbeams. Okay. Right? There's like every predator needs to die. And then there's like, I have a connection with a wolf. It looked at me in the eye in the full moon and it loves me. Yeah. And the truth is that it's something in here, right? And I think that moving forward with animals and understanding animals, whether it's management or how we're going to interact with them and coexist with them on the planet, we have to kind of understand this part, right? Right. Because if we live over here, this is going to shut down hunting forever, and everything is going to be a chaos. You go over here, we're going to knock ecosystems out of balance, or we're going to mow down. It's going to be, you know, chaos. Yeah. Right.
In just a different way.
And I think you got to try to figure out that middle ground. And part of it's just understanding them, you know, and we want to go out in the wild and live with these wild animals and have wild spaces. Right. And part of it's just the world's changing. They're adapting. We're trying to adapt for them. What can we get away with? Right. And I think part of understanding how we can do it is to understand who our neighbors are. And I think that that's important. And bears are smart. They're willing to change. We can teach them things. We can, you know. Yeah. You know, you see these female bears, they're raising their cubs next to roads. And the reason why they're doing it is they're smart because they know because big males and packs of wolves won't come close to the road. Oh, I see. So they learn that if they can tolerate people, there's plenty of food along the road for them to eat. If the other animals, their threats, don't tolerate people, they've got this little safe haven there. Right. And you start seeing this over and over with these animals. It's so cool to understand that it's not just, they're actually using their brain. Yeah. And then you start to realize that and you're like, okay, this is a compromise. Let's let them be there. Right. Yeah. Figure it out. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's good points for sure. I was thinking too, just as as I said, I've had a million thoughts, couldn't sleep last night, but I don't know why this one came up, but I did see that you had made an appearance on Oprah. Yeah. How did that happen?
Some producer reached out, heard the story, and I've done 2 shows with her.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Okay. I think, you know, dude,
you never took Brutus there, did you?
No, we were going to, just couldn't do it. Sick. Yeah, we couldn't do it. Liability. We were going to go there, and then the lawyers got involved, right?
Oh God,
can't have a grizzly bear in the studio. Go figure. Yeah. But it was one of those things. I mean, let's be honest. Brutus was the reason why anybody even gave a shit about me. Yeah. You know, and there was a period of time I had this responsibility. Not only just making sure that he had a good life, but also the responsibility to be able to talk reasonably about it, you know? And
like, what do you mean?
I mean, okay, you know, you said again from the beginning, like you said, you know, you look at your profile, it says animal activist. Yeah, right. Honestly, most animal activists don't talk reasonably about things.
That's true.
You know, and so
usually extreme is thrown in there. Extreme animal activists.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And I think that there's something there. It's like there's this responsibility. People are going to come to me like Oprah. I've been on Conan. I've been on Good Morning America. I've had the platforms, right? And when you're on those platforms, you got to make sure you're not talking shit. You got to talk in fact. Right. And the fact is based on something that you've seen with your own eyes and felt with your own heart. Not something that some dude told you down the road because it's already gone through a filter.
Otherwise, you're on those extremes we talked about. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And so I think, you know, when I talk about grizzly bears, I'm only talking about my experiences with grizzly bears, and I've had a lot of them. And I just want to talk the facts. I try not to draw a hard line because I know I'm still learning. I hear things from people. I've seen things that have changed my mind, and I will tomorrow. You know, and I think that, yeah, getting on Oprah, it was a huge platform because, and now it's a lot of, you know, who watches Oprah. They're not people who are thinking about grizzly bears or talking about grizzly bears, but they're people who are voting. They're people who are making decisions. You know, and so when they see somebody who loves and high fives a grizzly bear and gives it a bear hug, but also goes out and kills an elk with his bow every year, and he can talk about how there's a balance there. We can do both of these things. We can love the grizzly bear and kill elk at the same time. We can figure out, hey, guess what? If grizzly bears are overpopulated, guess what we got to do? We got to manage them, right? When they hear me say that, it freaks people out. What, dude? I'm like, this is how this. There's a way this works.
You'd kill your friend?
Exactly, but there's a way this works, and we got to find that middle ground.
Right.
And so when you get a platform like that, it's important because it's not you and me voting; it's everybody, right? Yeah. And you just I try to be reasonable. It's a huge responsibility, and I got to try to talk about the whole spectrum.
Yeah, because you could influence millions with what you say on 100%. A platform like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. You know, when people, especially, I mean, we're talking about predators particularly, right? Wolves, grizzly bears, mountain lions. There's things that I've made a living being able to film, and people look at me as an expert on those things. And these are animals. Every year there's some legislation thing comes up, and it's like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I think a lot of people come to me, and there's the different silos that come to me that want me to reinforce what they think. Right. And I just tell them what I feel and see. You know, again, I'm not. It's not a feeling thing. It's more of a factual thing, because I do think right now there's a lot of legislation around animal management is based in fantasy and fairy tales and feelings. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know, if you don't see mountain lions out there, they're going extinct. We got to save them all. We can't hunt them anymore. Yeah. You know, bears, they're grizzly bears, they're teddy bears. We can't hunt them anymore. And the bottom line, they're endangered. Yeah. You know, and the big bad wolf thing. I mean, wolves, yeah, they kill elk. They make populations of elk go down. Do we need to manage them? We do, right? And when people come to me and they hear that from me, that's just it's not a feeling. It's just a fact, right? And it's the way it works. You know, we live in a place now where there's a lot of human influence in the wild, right? And the more we understand about all these animals, elk, deer, moose, bears, wolves, the more we understand them, the better we can make decisions about how we can live with them, right? Yeah. And I think that I'm out there trying to learn. I'm trying to help that movement, right? And I think that that's just it. And it's important to have the right facts. And every day I go out there, again, I don't know everything. It's always changing, but I'm trying to find out, and I'm trying to give back to the people through knowledge that'll help them make the right decision. You know, I don't know, man, I could go on. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm very anti ballot box biology. It just drives me crazy because it's based on feelings, right? Yeah. And feelings and nature never work that way. No. And you know, and to think, again, I'm on a soapbox right now, but it's to be so arrogant, to think that whether you believe in God or evolution or whatever, that for somehow we as humans, our feelings are going to fix that. Yeah. It's figured itself out for millions of years, right? So we got to like embrace that. And it's, you know, and it's not, I love wolves so much. I think we need to bring them back to Colorado because I got a really cool poster on my wall. Yeah. No, you know, there should be biologists who are professionals, understand what a balanced ecosystem looks like. And there should be a committee of them who make a decision, say, you know what, no, we don't need wolves, or yeah, we need a lot less wolves, or yeah, we need a wolf here or there. That's going to make it better, right? Yeah. But it's not built that way. Right now, we got some politician who has never been out in the woods making decisions. We got people that live in downtown Denver who are checking, I want wolves, and put it in the thing. And there's some ranchers down the road who's going to hate it. Yeah. And it shouldn't be that way, man. It should be people that are professionals that understand, who've been out there, who put the time in, who put the reps in, who understand how it works, looking out for the best interest of everybody.
Yeah, and I think what's frustrating for most people is that the people in the cities who don't have to deal with these repercussions are making the decisions, just how the voting populace works. You know, it's ranchers who have wolves in their pasture all the time killing cows, or lions who killing, you know, sheep or goats or whatever else. It's like they're the ones dealing with it.
And they're a minority.
Voting.
And they're a minority, and no one's listening to them very often. And you have to. Mm-hmm. And they're living it. Yeah. Right.
I think you said something earlier too, is like that you, I can't remember how you worded it, but you love animals, you know, you hunt and animal activists. You're like, well, how do you balance both these things? But I feel the same way. I love animals. I mean, yes, I kill them and it seems weird, but when I kill them, it's with reverence and respect. I don't enjoy the killing part, but it's what I do. It's how I survive. It's how I eat. It's what my family eats. It's just like how it's going to have to be. Animals have to die for us, whether we're killing it or paying somebody else to do it for us. But I do have a poster or picture of a wolf on my wall. I also have a wolf hide right there.
Yeah,
you can be both.
You can be, and I think most people are. Yeah. You know, I joke about this. You know, we were talking about this, the Jethros and the moonbeams, right? Yeah, there's the extremes. But what doesn't exist is what I call the radical center. Mm. And the radical center needs to talk because it's the majority of us. Exactly. We need to fight for what we have, because otherwise the squeaky wheels, these are the squeaky wheels out here. And they're getting everything. Yeah. And the pendulum swings every time there's something changes. We go from like kill all the predators to let's hug all the predators. Kill all the predators, let's hug all the predators. No, dude, most people are like you and I, and we're right here. Right. We love to be out there hunting where there's packs of wolves and grizzly bears on the landscape. Mm-hmm. We want to be part of the predators. Yeah. You know, it's the wild places, these intact ecosystems are good for everybody. They're good for hunters. They're good for tree huggers. They're good for Jethro. They're good for everybody. And I think that's where we got to try to find. I mean, that's just it. It's just hard. That radical center or whatever needs us to talk and start to, you know, because we're usually basing it's unselfish. Mm-hmm. It's not feelings. It's coming from fact. And that's where we got to find, or else it's all going to go away, man. This is the way it is. Yeah, for sure. No, and I think that I like that, you know, the radical center, because when politicians, you never really know what politician is up to. See, so in Colorado, there's people who think that, you know, they want the wolves and the predators in there to knock down the animals we hunt, the prey animals. So then doesn't need to be hunting because there's no animals to hunt. So then you don't need guns. So there's like, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't trust politicians. No. You know, so I have my own thoughts on it. If I had a politician who was just honest about it, how refreshing would that be? Like, yeah, hey, from the hunter's point of view, here's what I hear, and I understand that. From the ranchers, from the anti-hunters, whatever, just be logical about it and just be honest. And it's like, that's so hard to get, because when you don't have that, then you fill in the blanks. You know, hunters fill in the blanks like, yep, they're trying to take our guns. See? Yeah, this is the first step. That's so right. It's hard, man. It's hard. And I think it's just, we got to try to find the pendulum's going to swing. We just got to make it swing less. Yeah. Right? Get it in here. It's going to do this maybe a little bit. But I mean, I think it's perfectly what you said. I mean, it's that balance. Can you have wolves and grizzly bears on the landscape and still kill elk? Yeah, if you do it right. If you do it right. Yeah. And I think there's something like that. I mean, you know, right now in Montana, it's real close to me. It's like I have friends who are outfitters who have been decimated. Their business has been decimated because wolves have knocked the elk population down. Right? Yeah. But I also have friends who are guides who make tons of money. In fact, the county I live in makes $50 million on wildlife viewing every year. It's the number one, way above ag, way above hunting. So there's those people too. Yeah. Right. So now you look at it, I'm like, okay, I got my buddy Warren, who's an outfitter, who's having a little harder time, you know, getting the fat guys to kill big bulls. Yeah. But he's still killing big bulls. Right. And I've got my buddy Evan, who's having a heyday because there's a lot of wolves on the landscape and a lot of people are coming to see him. But is there a space where Evan can still have his people come see wolves, and Warren's still killing some pretty big bulls.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that we got to find that. We got to care about our neighbors. We got to care about everybody's perspective. And how you find that is simple. It's God's plan already. It's evolution's plan already. Whatever you believe in, or aliens put it here, is a balanced ecosystem.
Yeah.
Will work for both. Now, will Fat Billy be able to kill a 6-point bull off the side of the road every year anymore? Probably not. But you know what? I call that participation trophy hunting.
Yeah.
Right? You should be a good hunter to be able to go kill a big 6-point bull.
Yeah.
You should be able to go out there and so, can Moonbeam see a wolf every single day?
Probably
or she have to get out of her car and walk up the trail a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you find it in here, maybe they can both, it's win-win, right?
Yeah. But I think to your point too, it's like the right people making the decisions are best suited for getting us in that position. I mean, it can't be the ballot box people. It's got to be the professionals.
100%. And how can we do that?
Yeah.
Right. I think we just got to demand it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because right now in Montana, we're in the swing right now. They're like, the same thing in Utah. They're trying to kill 40% of the mountain lion population. And they go, well, how many mountain lions are there? Well, we don't know. How can you kill 40% of them? And it's a knee jerk thing that some guy and legislators deciding. Yeah. And it's short-sightedness, man. It's just, there's the mule deer population are taking a hit, right? But mountain lion do kill mule deer.
Yeah.
Right. So you take a couple mountain lions out, and some mule deer population might go up. But simultaneously, they still have doe tags, and it's like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess the other short side of this is like most of the biologists say, it's a little more complicated than that. You take a bunch of cats out, everything kind of gets out of whack. We should take some cats out, no doubt. But you take enough cats out, the coyote population goes up. Now you got an animal who kills a mule deer once a week, and you got coyotes now that kill a mule deer every other day. Yeah. And so you think that A equals B. No, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Nature is much more complicated. Yeah. And again, back to that, to think that we're so arrogant. Yeah. That we can go to the ballot box and do God's work. Yeah. With one decision.
It's not realistic, but it's you mentioning the $50 million for, you said photos, right?
It's just wildlife viewing.
Oh, viewing. Yeah. It's because that, to me, then you got people who will say, oh, so that's the answer. See, we don't need hunting. We can still protect these local communities' resources by having people come in just to view the animals. You don't have to kill them. And, this has been talked about in Africa too. And what happens in Africa on a photo safari, which I'm sure you've been on, is like for some, I don't know about most of them, some of them, but they go to the exact same places all the time. So they are ruining the habitat basically because they keep going, and to get the animals there, they're killing animals to get the lions in there. So it's like you're not really doing what you might think you're doing, something different, but you're not really. You're still tough on the habitat, killing animals.
It's a big thing. And as a filmmaker who goes out in the wild and I'll go to Alaska, for example, the thing you saw, and film these bears, right? And I take that back and it goes on the screen. The next time I go there's 200 people there on the same place that I was saying this is the most wonderful wild place I've ever been. Guess who did that? Yeah. I did. Yeah. And so it's again back to that. I'm a freaking hypocrite, dude. It's one of those things, you got to protect it. Back to Yellowstone, you stop killing predators, you stop managing predators in that same place. The ecosystem, we live in a world now that humans are a big part of the ecosystem. Yeah. And without management, because we're taking away habitat all the time, we're doing all kinds of things, we're making it out of whack. Without making proper management decisions and taking some predators off the landscape, all those animals that everybody's going to go try to take pictures of are all going to get sick and die. Things are going to get out of whack. So it's just understanding that balance and understanding how it works, but no one wants to.
Yeah, no, that takes nuance is kind of lost its way these days. People just want these knee-jerk reactions, but sometimes you do have to look a little deeper and understand it a little better. And that's why you can't vote on it, because most people who vote aren't spending the time. I mean, when only half the people vote on the presidential election, it's just like voting. There's some flaws in voting. Yeah. So we definitely don't want them deciding what animals are on the landscape. That's what I was going to say. So you had Brutus on Oprah in 2009. When was it the other time?
I saw probably like 2012 after that.
Oh, yeah. After that?
Yeah.
You guys still buddies, you and Oprah?
I haven't heard anything from her for a long time. Yeah, she didn't call me. Yeah, you better call me after this. Yeah, no, she didn't call me after that. Yeah.
Well, that's a cool opportunity, though.
It was huge. And again, from our conversation we just had, you can see the value in those.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah. And I think anytime anybody wants to talk about it, I don't care what side of the fence they're on. I ride the fence.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a hypocrite that rides the fence all the time.
Oh, no. I mean, you have to understand both sides.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to address both the issues on both sides. But what's your big project now? What are you working on?
The big thing now is, like I said, all the kids are, you know, there's no one's making Planet Earth 4. No one's doing any of that stuff. So I'm going the YouTube route. Mm. Yeah.
With your channel, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's it. You know, I'm going out there. I'm just trying to do what I've been doing, like try to find cool stories. In fact, you know, it's one of those things like anybody listening to this, if you got a cool story, like, 'cause that's the thing. Almost all the stories that I'm working on my endless venture right now are people that I've met over the years that like come up to me and go, dude, I know where there's this cave. Me and my buddy stuck our head in it, but we never went any farther. But I think there's something back there. Okay. And I'm like, all right, this is an episode. We're gonna go figure out what's in that cave. Yeah. You know, one of my buddies, I don't know if you know Tyler Johnnerson, one of the best best hunters I know. Mm-hmm. Him and I were following cat tracks. And we followed him to this cave, like little cave opening, and we dug some dirt out, and we went down in this cave, and there was this big waterfall and stuff, and it was just, and we couldn't go any farther, and we backed out. I forgot about this thing. So 13 years later, I went back to this cave, and now it's opened up. We've discovered about a mile of undiscovered cave no one's ever been in.
Really?
Yeah. And so like there's episodes like that. This other episode, a buddy of mine was up elk hunting, and he crawled up in these rocks. And he glassed across and thought he saw a bighorn skull in kind of a window rock sitting there, perched. And he's told me about this for like 20 years. And I'm just like, we got to go see what this is, because that seems kind of weird, a bighorn skull, where he was describing it. We climbed up there. It was obvious this bighorn skull was placed in this like beautiful spire. I took an archaeologist up there. We found this huge spear point. This thing's been there since the Revolutionary War. It was a complete hunting magic offering by the Tukadika, the sheep eater people. So telling that story.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's that, and then I'm going to Nepal tracking man-eating tigers. I'm going to be next month. I'm going to be in the Himalayas tracking Himalayan brown bears and snow leopards.
That'd be sick.
So it's just all that, like going out. It's kind of adventure raw, pretty. Not super produced, just kind of in the moment kind of stuff.
Are you filming yourself, or do you take somebody to film?
I got a little right-hand man, kind of like you've got old James over there.
I got two. They're not really men, but
the right-hand boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, me and Riley, it's a two-man team, quick and simple.
Not Riley Reed.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just quick and simple. Like it's just usually just me and him, and I try to find crazy, wild places and tell stories. Again, and hopefully get out to the masses so people can kind of get a feeling what the wild's all about.
Yeah, I love stuff like that. That sheep story with the dude.
I'll tell you,
that's like what you're out there. That's what you hope to find every time. It's like a treasure,
dude. So this in the tracks of the lion, in the tracks of the mountain lion. And this is no coincidence. I have found so many Native American arrowheads or spear points or things, and it's because the greatest hunters on the planet walk in the same tracks. I'm not looking for that stuff. I'm just following mountain lion tracks, and they just always take me to cool Native American stuff.
Incredible.
And I always thought this is just like the most amazing thing. And this spot where this bighorn sheep skull is, I've tracked cats to. When you go out there, it's a big ram. Mm-hmm. And so when that thing was killed, you know what a big ram head weighs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was a sketch climb. Like we needed ropes when we brought the guy back, because when I went on there, I thought I was going to die. Mm-hmm. So then I imagined that there was some dude 300 years ago, arrows this bighorn sheep, cuts its head off, had landscape awareness to know where this perfect rock hole thing was, this, like eye of the needle, carried that thing sketch, like, Alex Honnold free solo with his head, put it there, and then what the guy, the archaeologist said, and then napped this. It's actually made out of quartz, beautiful quartz point at the site, and probably fasted 4 days and sat there and had like a vision quest. And to sit in the place of that, the other thing about that was just, it was so, like, that's my church, man. When I see that stuff, like,
Is this a video? Did you make this a
yeah,
video?
it's kind of coming out.
Oh, it's not out
out
yet?
yet,
Oh,
yeah.
God, I can't wait to see this.
But being in the presence of this thing just gave me like, I had just like chills and goosebumps. And then then there was just like sadness that sat over me, because 300 years ago, that was like one of the last wild natives. He did not know what was coming. Mm-hmm. You know, he was still doing these things and living with the bighorn sheep and killing them with freaking arrows and sitting up on this.
Life was good then.
Yeah. And this off in the distance, man, it was just like, there was a Revolutionary War on the East Coast happening, and things were about to change. And there was something about that made that story even more powerful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's the kind of stuff. I mean, it's not just animals. It's just telling stories that buddies have told me, old outfitters. There's an old outfitter guy who's going to take me to this cave that's got some like cave art in it that no one has ever seen except for him. Yeah, so I'm gathering stories because people have always told me these crazy stories. Mm-hmm. And you hear them, about 50% of them are real, 50 are bullshit. I put a little filter on that, and I'm chasing these crazy stories.
That reminded me, San Carlos again, said there's like a 3-story cave and like a mummified body and 27 arrows. And so I walked down this creek drainage for miles because I'm like, wait, so where was it? But I mean, could you imagine finding something like that?
Let's go find it. I know. That is all I need. Let's go. I'm not kidding you. I love that, dude. That's like,
I guess they barred it up because somebody went in there and stole the arrows, but they got all of them but one back. But so anyway, point is like, I love stories like that. And it's just like, I'm always, when I'm out hunting, I'm half the time just looking for stuff, just like exploring.
Oh, totally. Yeah. 100%.
Exploring.
How many times have I gone out looking for something and found something else?
Yeah.
In fact, okay, so down in that neck of the woods, Arizona.
Yeah.
I had a producer send me a note and said, "Hey, do you think you can find mountain lions in this area?" I said, "Well, maybe. They're very rarely seen in this area that he was talking about. But I can go." So he's like, literally my job was just to go try to find mountain lions. So I go down there, start tracking mountain lions, and I end up on this ranch, big, like right near the Grand Canyon, big rocky cliffs and stuff, huge bull elk in that area. And I'm following this mountain lion track, and it's like mixed mud and snow, and it kind of goes up under this big pine tree, and the cat scrapes, right? And I look down in the scrape where that hind leg kicked that big old pile of pine needles up, and on top of it, there's this freaking perfect arrowhead.
Oh, I knew
just
you were going to say
sitting
that.
there.
God.
And I mean, it's the most perfect arrowhead I've ever seen. And I just remember looking at it, and I had just seen these huge bull elk down there. And I'm just like, this is so cool. Because like that lion was no doubt probably hunting these elk. That dude was no doubt hunting these elk. It's in this beautiful, crazy landscape. And there's this point, a rock that some dude has sat and like intricately carved.
Yeah.
That he's going to strap on an end of a stick and is going to shove through an elk to eat. And it's just like, and then I look at that stuff, and it's just like, yeah. I mean, you could just be in that moment, have even a fraction of the skills that cat and that dude ever had.
I know. That's the goal.
And just the honor to be able to like just sit in the footsteps of those people and that animal.
Yeah, that's what makes it special. That's the mountains are, I don't know, never gets old.
And here,
oh, what do we got?
I wanted to give that to you,
dude. This is mine.
That's it. Yeah,
that's the one you just described.
Yeah.
What?
The best arrowhead I've ever found.
Oh my God.
Probably around. I mean, look how intricate that's.
Do you try to not touch it?
You can touch it.
Okay, good. Whoa, that is a perfect.
I've never found one more perfect.
Do we got to zoom in on this thing? Can we zoom? Camera 12.
Yeah, camera 12. We're gonna zoom on.
Yeah, I thought it's one of those things that I know you have a connection to that part of the world.
Oh my God.
You've killed elk, big elk down there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Look at that perfect arrowhead.
And I know you have connection to not only the land, but to honor that person. Here's the thing.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure.
That means so much to me.
That guy, think about the wisdom that guy had. Think about how in tune that guy was. Think about how much that meant to him. And I always thought to myself, it's like, okay, that guy's long gone now. But if he knew all that hard work that he put into that was now in the hands of one of the best bow hunters on the planet today, Man, that's an honor, I think.
That's incredible. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that is a beautiful head. I can't believe how you're right.
Oh,
That
they
is
don't.
perfect.
They don't. The thing is that it was in the duff of those needles, probably buried down, and that cat just happened to
scrape it up?
Scrape it up, and
That is beautiful.
You don't ever see them like that.
No.
Yeah,
That is beautiful.
and it's.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's probably around 800 years old. Yeah,
How sick is that? Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah,
Why do I want to kill something with it?
yeah. I don't know what you can do. You can put it in your lip like a Zen or whatever you want.
I'm going to put it on a necklace. I want to do something with it, but it's badass. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, and I think that, like I said, you have a connection to that part of the world. I know you'd honor that more than anybody would.
No, it means a lot to me to hunt down there at those with the Apaches down there.
Yeah, you want to put it in your lip like a Zen, or put it on a necklace, or take it back home, whatever you want to do, man. It's yours.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I love it. Man, that's treasures that we find out there. You guys got your questions?
Yeah.
This usually leads to more good discussions. Well, not usually, because they're usually stupid questions, but.
We got a gift for him as well. So.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Dang.
I found this in the Grand Canyon. No. Which one is it? Oh, this is mine, the Packout Skinner.
Dude,
Yeah, I'm going to open it for you, just so you can look at it.
this is the kind of gift trading I like to do. Arrowheads for knives.
Yeah. I mean, and Montana Knife has the best packaging.
Dude, their knives, I don't own one. I actually reached out to them trying to make a deal with them.
Yeah.
I guess I'm probably too much of an animal activist for them.
I know.
But my buddy, James's buddy, Eli,
Yeah.
when we killed my bull this year, I had like one of those disposable, what are they called? Javelin kind of blades.
Oh, yeah,
or-
yeah.
And I was working on it, and he broke out his Montana Knife Company knife, dude, and just cleaned it up. And I was like, I gotta get one of these.
Well, now you got one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I've been real curious about this. And you helped design this.
Yeah. That's a good knife. I mean, I don't like too big of knives because I like getting in there and to get the tenderloin sometimes in between the ribs if you're whacking away on stuff sometimes.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Dude.
Yeah.
It does it. I mean, I hope you like it, but this,
I love it.
it's not as meaningful as this in my eyes, but
This is awesome.
yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Yeah.
So what questions we got, boys?
Turn me on. Good. Okay. Well, you may have heard we have kind of a new section or a new segment, and it's called Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Oh, okay.
So, just so we don't get the weird bestiality people in here, for filming, fuck,
Filming.
marry, kill, brown bears, mountain lions, or tigers.
Oh. Wow. Brown bears, mountain lions, tigers. Fuck, marry, kill.
For photos.
Yeah.
Or video.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. I always joked back in the day, like mountain lions are my favorite animal. And I always thought if Brutus heard that, he'd be really hurt. But they are. They've always. So I guess that's marry a mountain lion,
Okay.
fuck a grizzly, and kill probably a tiger. Because tigers are, I'm a North America guy.
Right.
I love tigers. I mean, I've spent a lot of time with tigers recently.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, and it's so. I mean, in an area, you can go see tigers. You can go sign up and go drive around with a bunch of your friends
Where
that you
at?
never met in your life in India, and and go on safari.
Yeah.
But I learned in southern Nepal, there's an area that's very well has a lot of tigers, but they kill a lot of people there. 63 people have been killed in this little area in the last 3 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Good hunting.
And but it's one of the only places on the planet that you can track tigers on foot. And so I've been going there the last 3 years, tracking tigers on foot.
Really?
Yeah.
Like how long would a track go before you catch up with the tiger?
Well,
usually?
it gets back to so when I'm there on the ground learning how to track tigers, I mean, obviously you go on like an old riverbed and you can follow them through the sand. But how the natives, people there, track tigers is by listening in the forest. So, there's the orchestra of all the animals. I mean, you go there and there's it's a jungle. It's a dry jungle. So there's just so many birds and monkeys and deer. And there's so much noise. But they are so in tune that you literally can go close your eyes like this and you just listen, and all of a sudden you're like amongst that orchestra. If you can imagine the orchestra's playing, and then there's a flute over here that's out of tune, and you hear it. It's that thing saying tiger. And then you just close your eyes and then you hear the trumpet over here that hits the weird note, and you're like, oh, so the tiger's moving like this. And then you just gauge the distance, and you're like, okay, 200 yards right there in the thick trees, there's a tiger moving right to left. And you go over there to the tiger. And so being there over and over and over again, you start to get tuned into this. And so you just go there and start listening. So again, I opened up a can of worms here. I go there, and you can't help when you're there to meet people who've been affected by tigers. Every single person you meet, like, they've been chased by a tiger, their brother's been killed and eaten by a tiger in front of them, their neighbor was killed by a tiger yesterday. It's such a part of their lives, but the habitats are so small. Tiger populations are growing, human population growing, the overlap's just crazy. But the people there, they are people of the forest. They love the forest, and they have to go to the forest to survive. They also know that if the tiger is not in the forest doesn't survive anymore. So they can't just go kill the tigers.
Right.
So they're always trying to figure out a way to live. And you go there, and I went to this village, kind of this little town square, and these ladies that have to go into the forest and collect berries and grass the next day had just pulled their 2 friends out 2 weeks before. And they're terrified. That tiger's still in the forest. And so they're begging me. They think you come over there, a white guy from the United States, you're going to have some answer for them. And they're just begging me, what can you do? What can you do? And I'm driving home that night, and I'm thinking about how we track tigers, and I'm thinking about all this stuff going on with AI. And I don't know if you ever use the Merlin app on your phone. You should check that out. But the Merlin app is this AI app. If you just literally let it listen to the forest, it recognizes the sounds of certain bird calls, and it'll say, oh, robin or blue jay or whatever. It knows the sound, and it tells what you're hearing. So I thought, in this moment, what if we can figure out a way that we put listening devices in the areas that these people go that listens to the forest, and when they hear those alarm calls, somehow it notifies that there's a tiger in the area, and you can let those people know there's tiger in this section today. So today in B3, don't go there, because all the birds and the monkeys and the deer are going, tiger, 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 right? So I worked with this group over in the UK who are these bioacoustic experts, and we've been developing these listening devices that basically tell where the tigers are around these communities. And then the ranger will go to them and say, okay, today don't go in this section. And it's seemingly working, but it all boils down to that primitive language that we all once knew, listening to the forest.
Yeah.
That was that's
Wow. And now you got an Amber Alert for tigers.
Yeah. We're not completely there yet. We're almost there, but I've been going back there and tracking tigers and building on this ancient language / hybrid of AI. Again, these seem like they would be contradictory.
Yeah.
But this is where we're going in the world right now.
Yeah.
It's like we just got to figure out a way to make it work.
Oh, that's incredible. It's you're kind of screwing the tigers though, because now what are they? They're supposed to kill people to eat them.
Yeah. No, I mean it's in the
They'll
end.
find
It's
something
like,
else.
It's that pendulum swing, and the tiger population's going up. If there's not enough deer, and there's not enough everything else for them to eat, then they're going to starve and they're going to die.
Right.
But they don't want to kill them. It's crazy. It's I met with this guy at the spot. His wife was killed just a few days before, and we literally went over to the spot. There's fresh tiger tracks on the ground. There's blood on the ground. Her earring was there, and you can see where she was drug off.
And he still didn't want to kill the tiger.
No, I asked him. I said, that's what I said to him. I go, are you mad at the tiger? And he says, no. He says, we are people of the forest. Sometimes we go to the forest and we get food to eat, and sometimes we go to the forest and we are eaten. And that's the way of the forest.
Yeah.
And it was such a shocking thing, because you can imagine in the United States today, if there were 63 people killed by any animal in 3 years, we would nuke it.
Yeah, for sure.
There wouldn't be one of those things around anymore. But they realize the importance of nature being intact so much to their own well-being that they're willing to be part of nature.
Yeah,
And there's
I
something,
love that.
it's so beautiful.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said that about smart or stupid, whatever. But I usually don't take a firearm with me when I'm hunting bear, grizzly, brown bear, black, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to kill it. If I die in return, it's just the way it goes. So I kind of,
yikes.
yeah, I don't know if that's real or not, but that's what I tell myself in my head.
Yeah.
Maybe in that moment, I'd be like, fuck, could I have a gun? Anybody got a gun? But I can identify with kind of what you're saying about what the villagers over there think.
You don't carry bear spray? Man, I'd at least do that.
No.
Now you're starting to tip into that Timothy Treadwell.
I know. Now it sounds a little crazier, but in my head, it makes sense.
I mean, I'll tell you, because an injured bear, oof,
Yeah, I know. I understand.
it makes your shot placement probably, you're getting real focused there.
Yeah, it's I don't know. That's just how I look at it. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So your tiger story reminded me of. Did you ever know Bart Schleyer? You ever heard that name?
I've heard the name.
So Roy, my buddy from Alaska, fosters taxidermy. Great. I've had them. They mounted like the ram I killed up in Alaska, but great people. Roy would always go to Foster's Taxidermy and hang out, and Bart Schleyer worked there. So Roy would tell me, "Hey, there's this guy, Bart Schleyer. He's a freak. He's the probably best hunter, toughest guy I know. This, that. Nobody really knew him, but I think he was from Montana originally. It's either him or the guys that he hunted with. Like there's a book called Silvertip, Paul Schaefer. I know he's from Montana. But anyway, Bart, he was always on Kodiak, hunted up there. I think I don't know if he killed a ram, but he made his own bow, made his own heads, went Dall sheep hunting. I'm pretty sure he killed one, but I can't remember how the story goes now. But he also went down and studied tigers. So that's why it reminded me of that. It's just like your guys' stories are kind of overlapping in that regard. But he loved tigers also, did, I think radio collar type things. And look him up. But there's an article in Outdoor Life. I remember I sent this to Rogan because I talked about him on Rogan before, but it's called The Last Wild Man. It's an old article. You could look up Bart Schleyer.
Oh, I definitely, okay. I know the story.
Total stud.
Yeah,
but
lived an enchanted life.
Yeah, you'd love it.
Yeah.
He got killed. I think he was, mostly you spend enough time out doing stuff like this, whatever.
Yeah.
It's risky, but he got killed in Canada. They say he was hunting moose and a grizzly killed him and ate him, is what they figure. I don't think they ever really found the body. But look that up. But
for sure.
Your stories kind of parallel his in some respects. But I just love people like that, like you, like that are so immersed in the mountains and in learning, and I don't know.
There's so many, as you know this, man, there's so many people that are out there doing stuff that are way cooler than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They just don't have TV shows.
Right.
Like, they're just like Tyler Jonerson, we talked about him earlier. Like, that dude, he's such a good hunter and stuff. You never hear about him. There's like, he gets after it. That guy's out there every day too.
Was he in that film? Was it The 100 Rams? Was that his?
Yeah, that was his.
Because didn't he guide that guy to his, or what was that story? I can't remember what that was.
His mentor, Lee Hart.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It was this by chance was going to be his 100th ram that he ever guided. And Tyler drew that tag.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very heartfelt, awesome story.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think I met Tyler. It had to be in Kodiak. I was, Cole Kramer was there.
Yeah.
And we went to somebody's house there on Kodiak and watched like films, hunting movies.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun, but pretty sure Tyler was there. What else we got?
Okay. As someone who spends a ton of time in the woods tracking animals, does Bigfoot exist?
Oh man, I love this question. Dude,
Obviously
this is leading me to a big thing here. This is a big secret too. Yeah, no. I get that question a lot, I'm sure. No, I've yet to see any evidence of Bigfoot. However, I haven't actually properly went out and hunted Bigfoot. I haven't actually went out and tracked Bigfoot. So to say that without a doubt, which I'm pretty much leaning towards, that there's no Bigfoot. Yeah, but there was a time, there's this animal called the okapi. And it lives in the Congo River Basin. And And it's an animal you find in the zoo now. It kind of looks like a hybrid between a zebra and a giraffe. But 1950, there was this animal that lived in the jungle that looked like a hybrid between a giraffe and a zebra, and it was crazy and around the world, and everybody thought it was a crypto. Everybody thought it was as crazy as a Bigfoot, and it didn't exist in science. And you hear about the story, and it's like, and then all of a sudden, some scientists went out there, and there really was one, right? And it was a massive animal that was under the radar in this crazy place. So when you hear stories like that, it's like, so there is a chance, right? There's that 1 millionth chance.
Tell me there's a chance.
So this might want to put this on record, or I don't care, off record, but so I've had enough people come to me and say, is there a Bigfoot? Do you think there's a Bigfoot? And there's a lot of people that believe that there is, right? And there's some people with a lot of money who want to believe there is or isn't, want to know.
Yeah.
And every Bigfoot show that's ever been out there is just like some hillbillies out there going, whoop, whoop, come here, Bigfoot, whatever. It's like, okay, if you're going to look for Bigfoot, let's get serious about it, right? And so some guy reached out to me and goes, what would serious look like? And I said I'd put together the best team on the planet. We'd get military grade technology, and we would go to these hot spots that when we would go and we would, and I wanted to make a film about it or a show about it called Killing Bigfoot. And the idea is kind of a double meaning. It's that in order to make fact or fiction of Bigfoot, we're probably have to bring a body back.
Yeah, or kill the myth.
Or kill the myth.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go full tilt with this.
Yeah.
And I said, let's go. Well, because in the tracks of Bigfoot, we're going to find some cool shit. If we are going hard looking for Bigfoot, we're going to find something. We're going to probably find a Wolverine in a place that's never been found before.
Yeah.
We're going to see a heat signature in a cave and go in there thinking it might be Bigfoot, but we're going to find some other crazy shit. How cool would that be?
Great.
Yeah. So I had this idea and I kicked it around, and I have a buddy in Montana named Rob O'Neill. Do you know who Rob O'Neill is?
Yeah. The seal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rob O'Neill is like, dude, I want in on this. So then I thought, okay, you're talking about a TV show hook? The guy who fucking shot Osama bin Laden wants to go find Bigfoot?
Yeah, there you go.
So now here's the pitch. Rob O'Neill, Casey Anderson, Cam Haynes,
there
killing
you go.
Bigfoot. I'm not shitting you.
I love it. Well, yeah, because you figure if the guy who killed bin Laden is involved, pretty good at killing like high value targets.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So Bigfoot's right in there.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of in, and also if you think about it too, well, Rogan went out one time with, was it Lee Strobel or Lee?
Stroud.
Stroud. Yeah. That's what it was. And I think he actually did, because I remember the first time we were in bear camp up in Alberta, it's like 2014. He asked me that. He goes, "Do you think there's Bigfoot?" And I was just like, "No." And we were watching the show, and it was like the show that you talked about. Like it was not the. I think he went with them, but anyway. Point is, Joe likes to believe in stuff like alien. Always have this hope that there's something cool out there, right? But if you think about it, this is sort of Bigfoot country, maybe up more north, Washington, but it's like in some of those, in the big timber, deep in the mountains, where maybe satellites and trail cameras and all this wouldn't work that well. Who knows what the hell's out there?
There's something out there.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah, there's something out there. I mean, people are seeing something. Right?
I doubt with all the trail cameras people have, if it was around where people hunt, we would know. Yeah, but it's fun to think about.
I mean, there's something out there. I went to the Himalayas and talked to some people who've seen Yetis, and I met a guy who was 75 years old, a yak farmer. He had seen 3 Yetis. And when you talk to this guy, has no stakes in the game. He's not selling I Saw Bigfoot t-shirts. This is an old dude who saw something, right? Probably not a Yeti, probably a bear, probably some other weird animal. But he saw something. And so he believed it was a Yeti. And I think that's just exactly right. In the pursuit of Bigfoot, quote unquote, it's not out there. But if you went and dug around in these deep forests where it could exist, you're going to find something.
Right. And that would be, that, as I mentioned earlier, exploring is a big part of hunting.
Yeah. And you watch all these hillbilly shows, it's like, they see a heat signature in the distance and they all run away from it. This is, it's Rob, Cam, and Casey aren't running. We're going to it, right? And we're going to check it off the list.
Be pretty sick.
Hell yeah. I'm not kidding you, dude. This is, to me, it's like such gold.
You could sell that. Yeah, definitely sell that.
I think so.
That's an easy one. That would be. I mean, For the record, I don't believe in Bigfoot, but who knows what we'd find.
Yep.
Right?
You'd hunt him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one, Cam has talked about in his backcountry bow hunting book how at first, the woods when you're alone are intimidating. I talked about some times where I thought I was going crazy sleeping in my tent alone. I'm assuming, you had a similar experience. So how do you kind of combat that intimidation or fear when you're alone in the woods?
You have to make uncomfortable home. That's it, man. I think it's important for everything. I think about this all the time. If you can make uncomfortable home, then you're just home. And I think the more time you spend out there, the more reps you spend out there, you start to make it home. And that's like the simple way I can put it. I think that, I spent a lot of nights in a tent. And sooner or later, man, I sleep better in a tent than I do in town. I sleep better in a tent than I did last night. And I hear the highway go by. And it's like, for silence, sometimes that's scary for people. But silence to me is home, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm uncomfortable more days than I'm comfortable. So it's become home. So when you get out there, it's not a place that I'm not used to. It's a place that I recognize as home.
I like that. It's, you hear people talk a lot about, I've seen them say this about Goggins, because what you said just reminded me of Goggins. He'll say like, make uncomfortable comfortable or something like that, which is kind of what you're saying. But I've heard people say like about Goggins, are you ever happy? And it's like, I don't know what people mean by happy, right? Because to me, happy is what most people would say is suffering. That's when I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm not happy sitting on the couch watching TV, eating popcorn. I do it. It's not like I'm happy when I'm getting in miles, or I'm hunting, or when I'm suffering. So it's just like, what is happy?
It's all relative, right?
Yeah, it's like your happy probably isn't my happy. My happy probably isn't yours. So it's like people will say, don't you ever want to be happy? Yeah, I am when I'm miserable.
Yeah, I get it. And you know what? I have 3 kids. They're 6, 4, and 2.
Okay.
So I was a little late to the game.
Good spacing though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm regular. That's about as often as I get it.
Hopefully your wife doesn't listen.
She probably will. But you teach comfort to your children. And, if you go outside and go, ooh, it's cold out here, it's raining, let's come inside. Children don't know that. They learn that from mom and dad. Right. And my little girl is 6 who got the adventurer soul, man. I never taught her that. And her happiness is uncomfortable too. And one day we're walking up the ridge, it's early spring, the wind's blowing like 30 miles an hour. It's just cold. And I look back and here's this little, at the time, 4-year-old trudging up the mountain. And I remember I'm uncomfortable. And in the moment I think, God, she's got to be uncomfortable. And I say, are you okay? And she looks at me, Dad, and she goes, Dad, the wind makes my blood feel wild. And I just remember when she said that, and I just thought, how I react right now, and I just say, hell yeah, it does. Let's go, right? And it's just like, it's a state of mind. Happiness is a state of mind. Comfort's a state of mind. And if you can marry the two, if you can find happiness and comfort, then you can be a happy dude a lot.
Yeah. Oh, happiness and discomfort?
And discomfort.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's way, because comfort, it's a fleeting, who knows what it really means. I know what it means to me, being comfortable, and it wouldn't, but it's, to your point, if you can make uncomfortable happy, it's no different than make pain your friend and you're never alone, right? Yeah. It's similar to that.
Totally. No, and if you're doing what we do and you go out in the wild and you're always uncomfortable and you're not at home, it's going to be so hard.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you've seen it as much as I have, but most people get out there and it's not like a long hunt. It's not like weeks. It's like hours and they're ready to go. It's like, they are, I don't know what they expected, or they weren't ready for what it is. And they're ready to go.
They expect the edited version that they saw on TV.
Right. Yeah. On Outdoor Channel, is a 22-minute show.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And it makes or breaks people. And I'll tell you what, thank goodness, man.
Yeah, I know.
I like that. I want it to be uncomfortable out there because it keeps the people away.
Me too.
Okay.
What else you guys got?
These next few, I did a little preparation and, of course, texted Eli. So,
Oh no.
if some of these are no-goes, you don't have to answer them.
We can edit it.
Yeah. This one should be, though. I hear you're possibly a vampire. You got your blood sucked by a vampire bat.
I did, yeah. Dude, this is a... Eli gave you that one?
Yeah.
Attaboy, Eli. Yeah, this is one of my favorite stories. So in southern Mexico on the Guatemalan border, they have a lot of vampire bats. And in the area, due to habitat change and a lot of mowing down the jungle and building cattle ranches, the bats have learned to go to the cows. I mean, what a great source of blood, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't understand how that vampire bat works, I'll just tell you. So a vampire bat will find like a cow, and they'll literally, a cow's laying in a pasture, it'll actually land on the ground and kind of crawl up and sneak up on it because it doesn't want its host to be afraid.
Right.
And then crawls up on it, and then they bite, and they have this kind of anticoagulant antiseptic saliva.
They don't feel it.
They don't
Yeah.
feel it, and then it just kind of leaks, and then they lap it up, right? So what's been happening in that area is that some of the ranch hands and stuff are out sleeping in their hammocks, and a bat will see them and go over and jump on them and bite them. So this area specifically, I'd heard about this, so I wanted to go document it. So I go there, and it's like one ranch guy's telling me about how like 3 of his ranch hands in the last couple of weeks have been hit by it. So we set it up, and I wanted to do it. Everybody, my producer, everybody didn't want to do it because it sounded crazy. But then at the same time, they're like, this is such a good hook. But I just wanted to get down into my underwear, lay on a hammock in the same spot these guys have been sleeping, and see if a bat will come near me. So we did that, set up time lapses on me and whatever. And I laid there. I was probably laying there for like 5 hours. And I'm like, this is not going to happen. So I'm dozing off, and I hear one of the guys. He goes, because he's got the thermal camera because it's all dark.
Oh, okay.
He goes, there's a bat on the hammock. And sure shit, man, a bat lands on the hammock because it's sitting there and just assessing me for probably half an hour. And then it just creeps down the hammock, comes over to my calf, and then sticks its face up against my calf and just sits there probably for 10 minutes. I can feel it just touching my leg. Ooh. And then all of a sudden it just freaking bites. And then trust me, man, those cows are tougher than I am because it hurt. But I knew I just let it bite me, and it sat there and licked my
Where's
blood.
the antiseptic?
Yeah, didn't feel that.
Yeah.
So
or
then
anesthesia, I guess is what it'd be. Is that what it is? What's
Yeah.
antiseptic?
Antiseptic's like a
Mouthwash?
Yeah, or like wound cleaner.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right. What's the other word? Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about. But it licked my blood and then flew away. So I've had my rabies vaccinations.
Did you get, was that on video?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's on video. So I think I'm the only person who's ever been documented being bit by a vampire bat. But then after that happened and that show came out, it was a Travel Channel series a while ago. I had all these like weirdos, man, like who saw that.
Yeah.
That were like probably like closet vampire people I was like suddenly their god. Like they might, and I always joked I should just like, every time I see the light, I should go, ah.
Yeah.
But they really thought that I was a vampire now.
Were you just what was that movie that started with an N about vampires? Was that you?
Yeah, Nosferatu.
Yeah.
No, Nosferatu, yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have not, but I know the character. Yeah.
Maybe it's you.
It could be.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's shocking.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're fine.
I was fine. I had to go get a rabies booster the next day, and they had to check me out. But if you get bit by a bat,
I would say
some bad things can happen if you don't pay attention to it.
They look intense just looking at them.
They're one of the coolest animals. Again, one of those animals that are like people just think bad things about them. But
Right.
if we didn't have them, like down in like Texas, down in Austin,
Yeah.
there's 12 million bats that live under that bridge. They eat 100 tons of bugs every night.
Whoa.
So if that bridge fell in and those bats died,
Yeah.
farmers are in trouble. So it's
that
one of those
amazing?
things. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it all, we talk about you can't overthink or outwit or fix God's plan.
Nope,
You
can't.
know, I mean, so it's got to figure it out. What else we got?
This scares me a little bit. Eli.
So yeah, I've heard that you had heart surgery.
I did.
Kind of want to hear about that journey,
Yeah.
how that impacted your life.
Oh man. So 5 years ago, heart surgery is a bit of there's heart surgery. 5 years ago. I mean, I'm a fit guy, running around the woods. I was out making a trail along a pond for my little girl, and I just started feeling like shit. And I remember calling my wife over and said, "Hey, I don't feel very good." And she's like, "Well, I'm probably dehydrated or whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm dehydrated." So I'm drinking some water, and then cut to like 15, 20 minutes later, I'm like feeling like I've never felt before. I'm like fatigued, and I just don't know what's going on. But I'm being a guy. I'm like, I'm not going to the hospital. I live about a half hour from the hospital, probably a little bit more. And my little girl came over to me and said, "Daddy, I hope you're okay." And she hugged at me and looked at me in the eyes. And I remember looking at her going, "Shit, I better do something here. I don't, so I'm not just living for me anymore."
Yeah.
So I went to the hospital, and it turns out, I had this thing going on that was called supraventricular tachycardia. So basically my lower part of my heart was like going like this, and my top part was trying to beat normally. And they had to shock my heart back. In fact, the doctor said, there's no reason why you should be alive having going through this for as long as you did.
Whoa.
So they literally had to take the paddles to me and shock my heart back. So then I went in, and I'm like, "What? I want to know what's doing this."
Yeah.
Right. And
were you awake when they shocked you?
No, they put me on. I was on ketamine, which is even weirder, actually.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was like in this crazy highness, getting shocked at the same time. But I want to know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Like, And so I remember the doctor gave me this list. He's like, Have you ever been bitten by a venomous snake, stung by a scorpion, did cocaine, drank too much, drank too many rock stars or whatever?" Literally the whole list. I could have went like, "Yep,
all of the above?
Yep, yeah, exactly." So they're like, "We're never going to know why this happened, but it did." So they can go in there, which is cool about the electrical unit of the heart. They can go in there and find like where the short circuit is, and they run this thing up through your artery and just go in there and like burn it. Like find the little short circuit and burn it.
Wow.
So cut to, they did that. And my heart's fine. I mean, the thing is like when you're an athlete, I mean, I consider myself pretty athletic all my life. And then something like that happens to you randomly. It's humbling.
Oh, yeah.
So it was my midlife crisis, because the next thing I decided that I was going to do after that is start running ultras.
Oh.
And that's what I did.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I've been doing since then.
I didn't know you did ultras.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, no, that's why I was telling James, I'm like, "What the fuck? We're not doing run, lift, shoot?"
Yeah.
Dude, I do all those every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, that was my midlife crisis. So I've been running 50Ks, kind of embracing it. My big goal, which I know is something you did, kind of full circle, Montana backyard, Native American connection. My goal right now is to run the Crazy Mountain 100.
Those mountains are rough. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good mountains.
But that would be epic.
That's
you could
my
do
goal.
It. You could do it.
I'm trying. I mean, I'm running right now. I'm doing 50 miles a day, or a week, not a day. 50 miles a day, I could do it. Yeah,
50
miles
a
a week
rough.
right now. But I'm no Cocodona.
Yeah, I know. Well, I wish I wasn't doing that either. Hopefully, I get hurt. No, no. Crazy Mountain. Yeah. God, those mountains are awesome. I love that country.
They're haunting, man. They're haunting mountains. They are something about them. They're just like, they're spiritual.
I'd never been in there before, but saw plenty during that race.
Yeah. No, I mean, I got to do it. It's kind of my goal. I'm turning 50. Not gonna do it this year. My goal's next year. I'm gonna chalk up some 50 milers this next year. Yeah. And
that's good. I mean, it's
might go run a flatter 100 somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to talk James into doing. He's talking about doing 100K, and I'm like, 100 miles.
How many 50Ks have you done, James?
One.
Oh.
And no marathons.
Yeah, I skip marathons too.
Yeah, no. I mean, you won that 50K though, didn't you?
For my division, yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
Non-binary.
He was the only one. But yeah.
But I love it. I mean, I think the one thing I wish I would have got into it earlier in my life instead of waiting till this long, but it's such a good thing for what we do.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
what I mean? It's just like knowing that you can move long distances across the landscape at any given moment, being fit like that. If you're going to be following animals around, man, you better be right with them.
Yeah.
And I was a sprinter. I'm like a football player, rugby player kind of a guy, you know? And so running long distance was such a hard transition.
Yeah.
But the hard thing, man, it was that thing. I'm like, you know, go out, run 5. Okay, run 7, run 10. I'm like running a mountain marathon for fun one day. And I'm like, I can do this, right?
Yeah.
And you just kind of get into it. And again, You're kind of the same. People look at us to think you're a sprinter, right? You're not a long distance guy.
Yeah.
And you can train your body to do anything.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it is a big advantage of the mountains. You just make better decisions. You know, I mean, you don't take shortcuts. You're thinking clearer. You can focus on what you're there for instead of that you're tired or gassed or whatever else. So,
I mean, I think that's one of the coolest things. I mean, you made bow hunting an athletic event in some level. Like you put that in perspective. It's just like, you know, if you're going to be out there, you got to train for it. Mm-hmm. And I've always kind of believed that. I mean, it's like what we do, there's no doubt the better shape that you're in, the better you're going to perform.
Yeah.
And performance is how you pay the bills and how you feed the family. And that's just, I mean, my guy, man, I make him train. He's out there running with me. He's lifting all the time. He's doing stuff. And if you're not doing that, you're not hanging. I mean, Eli, his buddy who's been with me, I mean, you got to be fit when you're out there. Because if you're not fit, you're a liability.
Right.
And if you're a liability, man, you're off the team.
Yeah.
You're out of the pack.
It's too, and trying to make a living doing this, it's like, it's competitive. You know, I mean, the more you can get, the better content you can get, the more you're out there, the more reps you're introducing to yourself or your camera or whatever else. Yeah, the better quality of product you're going to have. So yeah, it's people want to discount it and say you don't need to. Look at this guy, he does all this and he's not in shape. It's just like you're focusing on the wrong stuff.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah.
Last Eli question. He just said, ask about the mountain lion and wolf attacks at the wildlife ranch.
Yeah, those are good ones. I mean, again, part of the that winning and losing and learning from mistakes. So, you know, again, worked in some captive wildlife places. I've got scars all over my body from making mistakes. And I was attacked by a mountain lion. I was attacked by a pack of wolves at a place.
Whoa.
Yeah, and by myself both times. Yeah, in a mountain lion one, it wasn't technically by myself, but it was one-on-one. I had this cat I had helped raise, and it turned into like a 140-pound male. And we were doing this.
It's a handful.
Yeah. We were doing this thing with this artist. This artist was like making this video where he was like sculpting clay of a mountain lion, and he wanted the mountain lion kind of lingering around the cliffs. Mm-hmm. So I was with this cat. And what I used to do with this cat is kind of play cat and mouse. I would run around the cliffs, and he would chase me, and I would hide, and he would stalk me. And we were playing this game. We did it all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, the shoot was over. The cat was sitting next to me. He was off his leash, and I kind of looked down at him, and he just had this like that crazy cat look in his eyes.
Yeah.
And he jumped to try to bite me in the throat. And I caught him by the throat like this. Mm. And he took his claws, wrapped them up around me like a cat does, and just started pulling his mouth towards my throat. And I'm pushing as hard as I can, and I'm losing that game. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm trying to bench press the power of this cat, and I'm not doing a very good job. And the next thing this cat does is what they often do is bring its back claws up and try to gut me out.
Yeah.
And I have this like Carhartt heavy denim coat on, and he just starts ripping and shredding the front of it. But what happens in that moment is this game of leverage, right? His feet are off the ground now, so now I've got leverage. So I take him and I just basically almost souffle him and just come around and slam him down on the ground. Mm-hmm. And when he hits the ground, he stops. And in that moment, I recognized the change in behavior that I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I knew I had to take over. So I just grabbed his leash, put it on around his neck, and just started walking him. Just took control, right? Mm-hmm. Which, trust me, is very hard to do after something like that.
I bet.
But I knew I had to. And I walked him about a quarter mile down to this truck was waiting and loaded him up. Then I looked down, and I just was ripped here. I got across my back, or my chest and my back and on my arm. And this one right here was just squirting blood. And I wrapped that up and I had to go to the hospital. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things like, again, wild animals, wild, no matter what his life is. You can never forget that those animals have the instinct. I don't know why he decided he was going to kill me that day.
Triggered. Something got triggered.
Something triggered. And I learned a lot from it. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's just like you walk away, and I look at my scars all the time, and I always try to dig into why I have them and what mistakes were made. What could I have done different? How can I make sure that doesn't happen again? And in some way, I mean, to be honest, it's kind of cool to look down and they have mountain lion scars.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I want a few scars.
I mean, you learn scars again. Back, it's like a tapestry, man. You look at your body and you see all those scars, and you're just like, it's part of who you are. It's part of your DNA. It's who's made you. They're often mistakes. It is those mistakes that define you. And in the wild, If you're lucky enough to walk away from one of those mistakes, you better fucking have learned from it.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get too many of those chances. Sometimes just one. So what about the wolves?
Wolf pack was in this big enclosure. I went in there. There was a couple wolves in there that I raised, so they were like my puppies. I was going to gather them up. I went into the middle of the enclosure, and I called one of them over, and he came over to me, and he was slinking over to me, kind of being submissive. And as soon as he came up to me, he snarled at me. And I remember I stand up, and I go, no, And as soon as I did that, I get throttled from behind. And there's 9 wolves in this enclosure, and I'm by myself. And as soon as I get bit, I turn around to see who bit me. And as soon as I turn around, that wolf who snarled at me bit me from behind. So now, classic wolf thing, they surround and try to invoke panic. And whatever wolf I'm not facing, and at that time kicking and punching as hard as I can, the other ones are biting me from behind. So and they're pulling them. I also have Carhartts on that day, Carhartt coveralls, and they're trying to pull me down to the ground, and they're biting me in the back, the ham in the back of my butt. And I'm just turning like a tornado, kicking and punching and screaming for help. And the more I'm panicking, the more that their eyes, they literally just dilate, and their tails are going fast, and they're just coming in and nailing me. The next thing I know, I find myself with my back against the fence, and I just do like a Fosbury flop. I just jump up over the top and just land on the ground, and they're all just right there at the fence, just all jacked up. And I look down, and I have like Daisy Dukes on.
Oh, man.
And my legs are just bleeding. Drive myself down to the hospital. I pull up in front of the emergency room. I remember walking towards it. The reception nurse sees me walking with Daisy Dukes and bloody legs, and she comes out and goes, "What happened?" And I said, "I just got attacked by a pack of wolves." And she just looked at me like I could see immediately she wanted to like go get the straitjacket because I lost my mind.
Yeah.
But then my doctor, he knew what I did for a living at the time, and he knew that I probably did. And I had some real good scar on my calf and a couple on my hamstrings. But that was I was really young. I was like 19 when that happened. And that was one of those things where I was like, maybe I should be a lawyer.
Do something different. Yeah, that would be, I don't know, that'd be pretty intense. A pack of wolves, because I just know how a dog, like when you're running and a dog comes out all aggressive, that's enough,
It's all the fundamental things. That's the thing about it. It's all the same. I mean, dogs have got all those instincts, and how you react in that moment is everything.
Yeah, what you said was no is exactly. I just did this like 2 days ago. This dog right over here came running out of the garage. So they just got, or the owner just got home with it, or was in the garage, whatever. But I was running by, and I just no like that. It's just like, so that did work.
Yeah, I mean, holding your ground, being confident is more, not aggressive, but confident.
Right, yeah.
It works so much with animals, especially animals who are always trying to invoke chaos and invoke panic. And that's how canines, they thrive off. That's how they win. A wolf pack, that's how they kick down elk. They create panic. That's how they kill bison. They create panic. As soon as you take the confidence and erase it from those animals, they win. You see those big bull bison that hold their ground and say, "Come on, bring it in here, dude." They live.
Yeah.
So you got to be that bison,
right?
And then that's the same with the wolf pack. I mean, again, I learned so much. I've not encountered their wolf packs being aggressive, but I've encountered other dogs. I've encountered bears. I've encountered mountain lions in the wild, and I've played the game with them. Mountain lions, definitely. You've got to mountain lions. You show them 1 inch. It sounds ridiculous, but the wild mountain lion encounters I've had where they've been aggressive, you got to go at them like you're going to kill them. Just got to be aggressive. Make them think that they're potentially on the menu, and they'll run away like crazy.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, tough to do.
It's tough, but I think what's your other option?
Right,
getting bit.
Doesn't sound that great either.
No.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's all you guys had?
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. This has been. I mean, this is kind of a long podcast, but such good stories. I love it.
And I appreciate this.
We're definitely going to do a lift run shoot at some point. It's
yes, please.
If I didn't have this freaking book thing, not all I've been thinking about, because we've been having a good discussion, but these book signings are haunting me right now. It's just like all I can think about is like, God, I just got to freaking knock these things out. They were hassling about where I'm at with it, but once we get past this, we'll have you come out. get you dialed in with a new bow. We'll do a lift, run, shoot, and get you ready for Crazy Mountain. How does that sound?
Let's do that.
That's
awesome.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir, man. Appreciate it.
A great discussion. I knew it would be, and I think everybody's going to love it. Check out God, now I can't remember. Grizzly guy?
At Grizzly Guy.
At Grizzly Guy,
and,
yeah.
And Endless Venture YouTube. There's going to be
Yes.
some great stuff coming out.
Yeah, and you heard all the stories, so yeah, you shouldn't be surprised at how sick this stuff's going to be. But Casey Anderson, thank you very much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right, keep hammering.
Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault, they want someone to blame. They sent their hate, it fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough, I am the change, the fuel.